report. The time is 7:31. This is the regular council meeting of February 11th, 2019. Will the clerk please do the roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Bliss.
I'm here.
Councilman Corbett.
Here.
Councilman Gettings. Councilor Grafstein.
Here.
Councilwoman Scott. Here. Councilman Soltis.
Here.
Mayor Hartwell.
Yes, I'm here. Would you please rise if you're able for an invocation to be led by Mayor Pro Tem Mark Bliss? Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussions that lead to sound plans and long-term strategies that will move the city forward. Let us remember that this meeting, every minute of it, is important because it's filled with countless new and exciting opportunities to make our city and our world better. Help us to see the significance of even the smallest piece of positive change and work with us to serve this city and all of its residents, current and future. Remind us that in each and every vote that we cast, we are representing the will of thousands of citizens who are relying on us to hear their voice and look out for them and their families. Finally, continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, all that we work towards is to make the community a more prosperous one with each and every passing day. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. I believe there's an addition to the agenda tonight. What's the wish of council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to add under D3, confirmation of the 43rd District Court Magistrate at the request of, actually it's 2. Okay, I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay, thank you. Is there support for the motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Soltis?
Support.
Thank you. A motion was made by Councilman Corbett, seconded by Councilman Soltis. To add an item to the agenda under reports, it will be item D3, confirmation of the 43rd District Court Magistrate. Is there any discussion on this motion to add? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The motion carries. That's fine. Any other additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, we can begin our meeting with presentations. We have a special presentation for the Holiday Light Awards. Mrs. Marsh, do you have a report?
Yes, the Department of Public Services Director Joe Vitale is here tonight on behalf of the Active Adult Center Advisory Board to present the certificates to the winners for this year's Holiday Lighting Award program, and we have a short presentation.
Mr. Vitale, Jr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Full crowd here tonight. As Council is aware, the fiscal year 17-18 budget saw the return of the Holiday Lighting and Summer Beautification Awards. This is the second year that the Active Adult Advisory Board and I have went out to look at the holiday lights, and we continue to really have a good time doing that. I'd like to give out some thank yous before we do our quick PowerPoint here. To Mayor and City Council, thank you. For the nominal cost to return this, it's been well worth the money to do it. The Active Adult Advisory Board, thank you for your participation in judging. Jennifer Cowan and all of her hard work at the Active Adult Center. Our winners, and if you'd please raise your hand, I know it's a busy night tonight. Ray and Pam Calcatira of 1382 Maureen, over there. Welcome. Mark and Robin Cram of 27123 Osmond. And Rob and Kim Fulton of 27859 Alger. They raised their hands. Are they here tonight? Are they with us? Also, to all of the residents that decorated their homes, it made it really tough on judging for us, but certainly we had to pick some winners, and we did. Also to Linda Williams, she introduced me to 3 business owners that are with us tonight. Mike Ranson from Ema Restaurant, would you raise your hand? Mike, thank you. Jason Johnson from Salvatore Scalapini. Jason. And Mike Full from Coach Grill. Thank you. We really have some wonderful businesses here in Madison Heights. Thank you for your generosity. We appreciate it. Melissa, if you cue the PowerPoint now, everybody. By the time I went out to take photos this year, the weather was so warm that people were taking them down.
You've played this music yourself, right?
Yeah.
So if I could have the Calcateras up and Mike Ransom from EMA to get your certificate of appreciation, your plaque, and your gift card. And I'd like to take a quick photo, please. If I could have Mark and Robin Cram up, and Jason Johnson from Salvatore Scalapini.
Yeah.
And Robin Kim Fulton, you are not in attendance tonight? Okay. I will take the gift card from Mr. Fole, and I will make sure that it gets delivered. If you want to come up, please. Thank you again. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks. I want to thank Joe Vitale Jr., all the guest judges, and the homeowners for participating. I do want to make one comment. One of the sponsors, Ema Noodles, was just rated the #1 best restaurant in Metro Detroit, according to Mark Kurlianchik. So that's 2 years in a row that Madison Heights has had one of the best restaurants in Metro Detroit, but this year we are the champion, thanks to Mike and his team. So please sponsor our restaurants yourself by enjoying and celebrating their really delicious food. Thanks. Our next presentation tonight is the Random Acts of Kindness Week, which will be celebrated February 18th to the 22nd. Melissa Marsh, do you have a report?
Yes, Council is requested to proclaim the week of February the 18th through February the 22nd as Random Acts of Kindness Week. It is the 23rd consecutive year of celebrating Random Acts of Kindness. The city will provide a display case and a table with free treats for residents and employees celebrating the human capacity of kindness. We encourage everyone to be even kinder than they were in 2018. It's just that simple.
Margene Scott was the impetus of this idea many years ago. So, Councilwoman Scott, would you please accept this proclamation and display it in an appropriate location?
Yes,
Thank you.
definitely.
Do you want to tell a nice story?
In 1995, my husband and I were dining at, how many of you remember Steak and Ale Restaurant? But we were dining at Steak and Ale Restaurant, and a gentleman that was sitting about 50 feet from us kept looking at us during the meal. And by the time when the waitress brought us the bill, there was a little note in there saying, I choose to offset random acts of violence by random acts of kindness. Therefore, I'm paying for your meal tonight, and I hope you have a good evening. Well, we were so impressed because when we looked up, he was gone. We wanted to thank him. So my husband suggested that we start a Random Acts of Kindness Week in our city. And luckily, the council at that time was very receptive to the idea. We got a lot of assistance from the people here and the staff and helped us carry it out. So we've had many celebrations of that, to the point where one year I got a call from the BBC in London, England, because we were on the map about that. We were one of the 5 cities that they recognized that year. We were the very smallest one. The other ones were all major cities. So anybody who's participated in that, I want to thank you for 23 years of kindness, and I hope we can keep that up, and it can be something very simple. Thanking somebody for what they've done for you, that's about all we ask. And you try and do it when you're not around or when you can be anonymous, which is fine. But it will make you feel better than the person that you're being kind to. I guarantee you that. So I want to thank everybody here who has supported it for 23 years.
Thanks, Councilwoman Scott. There are no public hearings tonight, so we can go meeting open to the public. One of the proudest traditions of the people of Madison Heights is public comment, which begins now. This is your opportunity to address the city on any subject. To honor your constitutional freedom of expression, public comment is a one-way street. In other words, you express your opinion and the city listens. There's no dialogue or debate. It's your solo performance of expression. I will impose 2 rules during public comment. We always have these rules. The first rule is please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. And also, please direct all your comments to me as the chairperson of this meeting. We don't tolerate personal attacks of anyone else up here. And also, it's not required, but it'd be helpful if you could give your name, address, and any professional affiliation that's relevant to your comments. I have 2 specific items tonight. If you're commenting about the proposed medical marijuana ordinance, there's going to be a second opportunity later in the meeting for public comment, specifically on medical marijuana. You're invited to speak at this first public comment, or you may wait till later in the meeting when the medical marijuana ordinance comes before council. You may also speak then. I also understand that many of you are here tonight to discuss the case of Boomer the dog. And I have a written statement I'd like to read. City Council has been apprised of the matter regarding Boomer the dog, and that it's pending in several different courts. The City of Madison Heights has a long-standing practice for the City Council to not comment at public meetings on pending litigation. It's not appropriate for us on the City Council to do that. The city council also cannot interfere in the legal or judicial process. The city council cannot interfere in the decisions of the district court or the decisions of any appellate court. And the city council simply cannot obstruct justice. I invite you, if you still wish to make comments about this matter, to join us in public comment and to be a part of our meeting and to become part of our public record. Feel free to do so and speak freely. You are welcome, your comments are welcome, but please respect those two rules I had. 3 minutes or less, and please direct the comments to me as the chair. So the meeting is open to the public. If anyone would like to come to this microphone in the center of the room now, you may do so now. I'll keep an eye on the clock, and if you do exceed 3 minutes, I'll politely ask you to wrap it up. Good evening, welcome.
Hello. Hi, my name is Kim Palmerville. I did ask a couple weeks ago, and you already said that this is not the forum where you would answer questions. I asked a question pertaining to taxpayers' money as far as the city of Madison Heights, as far as keeping the cases, 2 cases active in their attempts to have Boomer destroyed. One of the case numbers is that I have here, that I have submitted to the city, looking for answers as far as how much money the city plans on spending against case number 18CV12952, which is a countersuit against the city. And I have specifically asked for invoices, retainer agreements, hourly rates for all the attorneys, and budgets for all the litigation. So I just want you to know that I understand you can't answer that question. I was of the impression you may have thought it was a rhetorical question when I asked about a month ago, but it's not. I am looking for those numbers. So that is it. With all due respect, thank you very much.
Thank you. If anyone else, please. And it's not rude to line up if you're comfortable standing for a few minutes. Good evening.
Hi, how are you? I'm Vanessa Vogler from Madison Heights, and I'm here, I understand the rules concerning Boomer, but I am also a taxpayer, and according to all of the codes and everything, I also would like to know how much that my money is going towards putting a dog to sleep concerning this matter. That's pretty much all I have to say, that I'm very upset about it, and I think it should be brought up and discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Gary McGilvery, 926 Tanglewood, Oakland County Commissioner for Madison Heights, as well as Parks Commissioner. And I'm here tonight just to let you know that I'm planning another cleanup at the Nature Center in the woods. It's tentatively set for April 27th. That's a Saturday. So if you're available, come on by and give us a hand. We've had in the past as many as 150 people over there helping us clean up. So it's a nice day, hopefully, and we can get things cleaned up so that the woods looks good and the building looks good and so forth. So that's all I have. I'm not real sure, but I'll make sure that the city puts it on their website. Okay.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Kokorian. I've lived in this city for over 30 years. And I also would like to know how much money you plan on wasting of my taxpayer money on a dog. Also, I would like to remind everyone that we elected you, we pay you, and it's very heartbreaking and very irritating. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Dennis Clary. I've been a resident of Madison Heights for 43 years. And this is the first time that I felt it was needed to address the City Council in regards to what they're proposing or looking into. The City of Madison Heights has been a city of progress. with the last election on Proposal 18-1, the residents voted, two-thirds voted to approve the use of marijuana, one-third opposed it. The City Council voted 4-3 to allow businesses to come in and support this industry. I oppose that decision. Over the weekend, we had a national official make a notice that she was running for president. She said she was in favor of approving marijuana on a national level and to do a study after the fact. Any other drug would take years for the FDA to approve to help and benefit the residents, the citizens of this country. It'd be a sad day if the city of Madison Heights, the city of progress, cannot bring in businesses other than in the industry that supports the use of marijuana to fill vacant buildings. It'd be a step backwards. It would not go with the motto that this city has lived by as City of Progress. I'd be interested in hearing what the Chief of Police says about information that he has on what it would do increasing crime in the city. On the medical side, having a medical professional come in and talk about the pros and cons of this drug. I have no issues if, for medical reasons, if a person can get relief from whatever problem that they're fighting, I don't have an issue with that. But for social issues, I'm totally against it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sharon Stuckey. I'm from Sterling Heights, and I'm here to help save Boomer. Boomer is a beautiful, kind, loving dog. He is a pit bull mixture, which a lot of people don't like. But I have 3 of those in my family, and they're the most wonderful, kind, considerate, loving dogs that you could ever have. And just the name pit bull sometimes freaks people out. But until you get to know that breed, you have never seen such a sweet dog. And I don't know a whole lot. I'm just an old 80-year-old lady who is here fighting. I fought for Sterling. I'm fighting for Boomer now. I think he's been unjustly accused of a crime that he may not have done. And I believe that innocence is, until it's not proven that he did it, he's innocent. If there's no proof that this dog did anything, he's innocent, just the same as a human being would be. And you have coyotes here. We have them in Sterling Heights. And to tell you the truth, I have a golden doodle, which I rescued. I don't take my eyes off that dog when she's outside because I'm afraid of coyotes. You have coyotes in this city. We have them all over. And the way the dog was killed, I'm very, very sorry for the family of that little dog because I know what it's like. I just put a little dog to sleep not too long ago. He was 19 years old. And I just feel very bad for them, but I do not think there's enough evidence for Boomer to be put to sleep for a crime that no one can prove. And if it was your dog or your child, you would want that proof that that dog did that. There's no proof that Boomer did anything. As far as I'm concerned, the condition of the dog when it was found, it was a coyote's work. Dogs do not destroy a dog like that. I mean, they will go for the jugular, they'll kill the dog. When the dog is done and it doesn't move anymore, the dog goes. Coyotes rip dogs apart. Dogs don't rip each other apart. So I'm asking you to please try to help save this beautiful, beautiful dog from a destiny that he doesn't deserve. And it could be your dog next time. It could be somebody else's. and I grieve for the family, and I wasn't going to come tonight, but I thought, I have to come and try to save this dog from a destiny that I don't think he deserves. I think this pet was killed by a coyote, and I would bet my life on it. I've seen the works of them, and I know. So please, give him the benefit of the doubt and give this beautiful dog a chance to live his life and grow old like us.
Thank you.
My name is James Morrison. I'm a resident of Madison Heights. I thank the City Council for allowing me to make my presentation about marijuana. The 2017 census of marijuana, of the population of Madison Heights, shows that 30,050, and we have 4 pharmacies in the city. Does this Madison Heights have a need for more than 2, perhaps as many as 4? I would ask, with the number of schools in Madison Heights, is it prudent to have such a proliferation of dispensaries? Well, these dispensaries also sell edibles. They should be harder to keep away from children and pets. Symptoms of edibles are slow to be felt, but stay in the system longer. There was a fatal case in California of a 5-year-old that consumed such edibles, so we need to be careful. Will parents and guardians keep their edibles under lock and key? Marijuana can also be used in Juul and similar devices. We already have a problem in the schools, even in middle school, with students vaping. And so with additional access to marijuana oil for vaping be causing more problems. What can residents of apartment complexes do that oppose having to endure the smell of marijuana plant and smoke oil? Since the level of odor cannot be qualified at this time, is the only option for a resident to avoid having to smell it is to move to another residence. If inhaling the smell of the smoke of a neighbor's marijuana affects their health and job, what can they do? Further, what course will homeowners have for the marijuana smell that permeates the neighborhood by neighbors who grow up to 12 plants? Will these owners need to move? If a residential area is overwhelmed by the smell that causes adverse property value, what recourse will homeowners have? If marijuana causes a general decline in the city's property, won't that affect the city's tax base? Further, records show from the states of Colorado and California that proliferation of marijuana in a community has an increase of theft, fires, and accidents. Auto accidents also related to marijuana can cause up to 60% higher. Long-term studies on marijuana have not been done, but there is clear evidence that THC resides in the brain and it accumulates. Some heavy users of marijuana become abusive and violent, similar to those that already are been reported in the Madison Park paper of a restaurant customer being attacked by a marijuana user. Will children of women who use marijuana have mental or physical problems similar to children of alcoholics who are born with alcohol syndrome? These are studies that need to be done, and we need to be careful about that. Therefore, I ask the City Council to move very slowly and caution in opening the city to commercial marijuana enterprises. Work to find a good balance for those medical needs that they are met, but limit the proliferation. Thank you.
Thanks. Good evening.
Hello, Mayor Hartwell and council members. My name is Chris Slowinski. I live in Utica, and I'm here to support Boomer. However, I was brought into this because of the tragedy that happened to Sterling in the city of Utica. Sterling would not have been in that situation other than the fact that the first loving owner of this dog, because of breed discrimination laws, was required to bring the dog, to get rid of the dog, and brought the dog back to a kennel situation with Macomb County, and then was adopted by this cruel, cruel human being. So I understand that you cannot get involved with the legal case. It's very, very, very clear. But as a council here, and as the City of Progress, I think it would be a wonderful statement for you to make a statement against breed discrimination. It's a form of discrimination. It's a racial discrimination of dogs, and I think as the City of Progress, it would be great for you guys to come out and be against this. There's a number of cities that have these breed discrimination laws, and because of that, Sterling is no longer with us. And the energy of the Sterling group here is now focused on saving Boomer, and we would appreciate if you guys could make a statement like that. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
My name is Julie, and I live in Clawson, and I have MS. I am also a patient advocate for medical marijuana. I'm sorry. I'm here to speak in favor of medical marijuana and the need for it in Madison Heights. Now, I've had MS for 15 years, so I've struggled with every single problem, cramp, sore, achy bones, you know, anything you can think of with MS. It's been visited on me. And it's just the one thing that makes my life easier is medical marijuana. It's the only thing that makes my life happy. You get that little happy space, you know? And I just would really hate to see that opportunity be passed up here in Madison Heights. When you guys have it, you have it at your fingertips. It's right there. You can get it. You can make all the money that you want to make from it. You can explore job openings. You can do anything with it, you know? And I understand that there are people who are afraid of this becoming legal. And my mom is not my biggest offender when it comes to medical marijuana. But I'll tell you what, she allows me to be me. And that's what I need for my own body. I need it, and I'm not going to feel bad about needing it. You know, I'm not going to feel guilty for wanting it. Anything wrong, it's got to be with other people. It can't be with me, because Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's sweet. Okay. Everything has been visited on my body. I just had my therapist last week or something say to me, "Oh, Julie, you know, you're so lucky because people with pseudoaffect bulbar, where your brain is literally broken, that's what's wrong with me. I cry at the drop of a hat for nothing. You know, nothing is wrong. But it's a pseudoaffect bulbar. You can't control it. It's fine. But medical marijuana helps me to control those kinds of things. And I really hope that you guys can understand that and appreciate that for what it is, and really lots of work to get this in here. We're not talking about cocaine or heroin or something awful like that. We're not. I know there's some people who don't like marijuana, and that's fine. You don't have to like it. All I'm saying is don't not like it because I like it, you know? I really hope you don't take this away from me.
Thanks, Julie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I don't know this girl, but she needed me.
Thank you. And you know what? Let's go boom.
Because I'm up here again, and it takes a lot for me to get up, because I'm almost 80, so.
Ma'am, there's about 100 people here. Could you?
Okay, I just wanted to tell you something about, because I'm sure you don't know about Sterling.
Ma'am, you used 3 minutes. Could you wait? There's about 100 people here. When they're finished, you can speak again. I promise. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Robin Sheehan. I'm from Wyandotte, Michigan. I do not live in Madison Heights, although I grew up in the area. If it was not for my pit bull, service dog, I would have died of frostbite. She rescued me when I had fallen in my backyard. She saved a life. She didn't take one. These dogs are so, people are so prejudiced of them. If you even say it when you're out, they run across the street. These dogs can be wonderful. So if a dog doesn't have evidence against it, saying that it did something wrong, how can we euthanize it? It's not right. So please, everyone, just give every dog a chance. We can't save them all, but gosh darn it, we can try. One dog is what mattered to me. One dog saved me. That's all I have to say. Save Boomer. They matter.
Thanks, Robin. Good evening.
Mayor Hartwell and the board, first of all, I want to say God bless you. My name is Vita Palazzolo. I'm at 27074 in Nanton. I also serve with my buddy Kim Clark over here on the Arts and Cultural Advisory Board, and we're very grateful to have your support. So thank you so much. We hope to see you Friday at our big event. I myself, along with Julie or Judy, I've had multiple sclerosis, MS, for the past 8 years. So I'm in support of medical marijuana under a lot of conditions, which I'm sure we'll hear later. But what I'd like to propose to the board, or actually invite, next month is MS Awareness Week, or MS Awareness Month. And I'd love to propose to the board and invite you to join the Michigan chapter of the MS Society, which is in Southfield, to join us for MS Week and turn the town orange. Orange is our color. Got my bracelet on. By possibly having businesses hang orange ribbons in front of their business and getting some of the businesses to jump on board and put out a jar for donations. You know, there's so many causes. I understand that chronic illnesses are ridiculous, and there's a rise of them in the past years because of the way well, that's a whole nother meeting. But anyways, that's my invitation to the board. I'm grateful to be here. I thank you for all you do. I know it's going to be a crazy night, so hang in there. And, you know, if you want coffee, I'll run over to Big B. So thanks.
Thanks. Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Sharon Center. I'm from Utica, Michigan. I am an animal advocate. I am heartbroken over all the animal abuse that goes on. I printed out some of the transcripts from Boomer's case, and I'm appalled to see that there is no proof that Boomer did anything. I can't understand why. First of all, I'm wondering if you know this has gone national. I'm going to be blunt. Also, as I go through all of this and I read everything about this whole entire case, two names keep coming up over and over and over again. And I'm sorry, but Judge Hunt and Chief of Police Corey Haynes. They seem to be in a power thing against pit bulls, or this particular dog. I'm sorry, I'm a blunt person, and I hope that you save Boomer. We're all watching. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
My name is Christina Falk. I live in Washington Township and work for Chesterfield Township. Cheryl, I don't know if you remember me. I'm not a speaker, but I'm a huge animal lover, animal advocate, and I stand up for what's right. And I'm just here to be a voice for Boomer and show my support, and please, please spare his life. And just to let you know, this goes beyond the city of Madison Heights. Like Sharon had said, it's nationwide. People are pulling for Boomer, and just do the right thing, please. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sandy Isaacs. I'm a resident of Troy, and I'm here to speak on in support of Boomer being set free. I'd like to concur with some other speakers based on the transcripts, reviewing all the evidence. The bottom line is there is absolutely zero evidence proving this dog killed the other dog. In the court of law, as you guys all know, the burden of proof is on the prosecution. I do not know how they found him guilty in the court so far. I'm praying that appeals will make a better decision and free the poor dog. Again, when there is absolutely no evidence, the dog that was killed was cremated. Therefore, the forensic evidence that probably would have provided a little more, proof of actually if anybody did anything. But as it's been stated, the dog had zero blood. If you're familiar with dogs or dog fights or any kind of violence, there would have been some blood on that dog. Sometimes the justice system gets it wrong, but it's not too late, and I do hope things will be made right and he will be set free, set home. Long-term boarding is absolutely not healthy for any animal. He needs to be home where he can be a dog and loved. So I'm begging you publicly, please do whatever it is within your power to see that this dog is set free based on the fact there is zero evidence that he did what he was accused of. I'd like to also second what this gentleman up here talked about, breed-specific legislation. I am a proud pit bull mom. My dog was rescued off the streets of Flint. They do have a bad reputation. It's not the dog by any stretch. These are probably the most beautiful creatures that I've ever had the privilege of rescuing and advocating for. My dog is also my emotional support animal. And like the other gal said, my dog too saved my life. I was a victim of, I hate to use the word victim, but I was involved in a domestic violence situation, and I got out of it, thank God. And now my dog really kind of helps me deal with like the PTSD, and went through a lot of stuff that I would not have survived without her. And she does look just like Boomer. But another thing with breed-specific legislation, I'll wrap it up here. I work for Community Housing Network in Troy. We're a nonprofit that there's a very big crisis with lack of affordable housing, and our primary focus is to assist homeless people, prevent homelessness. And I'll tell you firsthand from a professional standpoint, working in social services and in a nonprofit realm, that if you guys can also please do, again, whatever is in your power to put an end to the breed-specific legislation, because it really causes more harm. We call it racism of dog breeds. They label dogs pit bulls, and if you didn't know, pit bull is actually not a breed. It's just a label they slap on any dog that might look like this one. But the fact is, I'll tell you also from a social service standpoint, I witness every day at work that BSL, the breed-specific legislation, is a huge barrier in people finding housing. So there are so many people, there's apartments, there's landlords, they do not allow it. They restrict breeds with no basis whatsoever other than that's their rules. So we have difficulty finding people housing that end up homeless because of these ridiculous things. So at any rate, thank you for your time. I know it's a long night. I just ask you, please do what is in your power free Boomer, please, I beg you, do what's right.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Isaac.
you.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Hi, Mayor and Council. My name is Diane Follis. I'm a past resident of Madison Heights. I raised my children here. I'm also a cancer survivor of lung cancer. Don't clap too soon. I've also been a medical marijuana card holder for the last 2 years. I've also had a granddaughter who had bipolar who was a medical marijuana card holder. Going through this process, I truly believe that CBD oil cures cancer, and I do believe there are a lot of good purposes for marijuana. However, in the last few years, going to these dispensaries, I've got to say a lot of them are in unsavory areas. And in trying to help other people with this particular afflictions or pain or whatever, going to different dispensaries, I've gone to as many as I've cared to speak. I've one-to-ones in Lansing, Detroit. I live by Brighton, so I get to go to Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor is a very nice place to go to a lot of these places. However, they're not all alike. There are some that are, like I said, unsavory areas. There are people waiting in parking lots. A lot of it's done with cash. So you worry when you go into these places. Sometimes there are people waiting out in lines, and I've been approached by people trying to borrow money from me when I've tried to go to dispensaries. It's not all an uphill candy area. And there's so many. My granddaughter put this weed map on my phone, and if you can see, it shows every dispensary that's in the area. It's bubbled with them. We have so many in Hazel Park, Ferndale, and on down the road, even in Clawson and Royal Oak now. There's a lot of places to go. You don't have to go very far. And the kids pull this up and they know right where to go to get it. It usually has the name of the dispensaries and what's on sale and everything. And some of them are good. There was one in Ann Arbor, it's called Tree 21. You have to be 21 years of age to go there. I like to go to that one because you have just mature adults usually going there. There's another one called Bloom that's owned and operated by women. I like to go to that one because it's taken care of, the people are nice, the lobbies are clean, but I've went to a lot of other ones where it knocks you out as soon as you walk in the door, the smelling of pot. And I'm not really for all that. And if there was better regulations for these dispensaries, or if there's some way that you can make them safer, then I say okay, but it hasn't gotten there yet. They don't all seem to be able to follow the same guidelines. And to me, that's a scary situation. If you want to sell to people that are growing it or laboratories, fine. But on these dispensaries, you need to keep your eyes open. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Bush. I live at 1117 East Hudson. I want to thank the council for their patience with the people who come from out of town and assume all sorts of things about Madison Heights that are untrue. That said, I'm going to be leaving after my statement here. How old were you in 1977? In 1977, I was 19 in my second year of college. My father had untreated PTSD from World War II. I had never seen my father smile. I was 19 and I had never seen him smile. I knew he loved me, but I had never, ever seen him smile. But I was going to school with these Vietnam vet guys, and they seemed to have this thing, this weed thing, that made them happier and able to go to school. So I went home to Dad. I said, listen, Dad, you got to try this with me. I'm not doing that. I said, come on, Dad, you can try it. So he did. And you know, for the first time in my father's life, I heard him laugh, an unrestrained, happy laugh. And I continued to provide him with a little weed every now and then, and it made him better. And interestingly, 40 years later, I now have worked for a federal agency that works with veterans for 16 years, and here we now, 40 years later, and the VA is appropriating funds for research for marijuana. because it works. So with that said, given that 2/3 of the city is in favor, I would hope that at least 2/3 of the council vote in favor of us benefiting from the cash portion of this. Now, I just told you a very personal anecdote, but I also sent every single one of you the facts and figures about marijuana as it would benefit a city and how it would not affect our crime. It would not affect these things. If you want to talk about dispensaries in Madison Heights, let's talk about liquor stores. How many liquor stores does Madison Heights have? And how concerned are you about the schools for the liquor stores? You know what? Those kids are drinking more six-packs of beer than they are smoking dope. So with that said, I'm going to take my old sorry butt and go home. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Hi. I'm Bob from Madison Heights. Talk about the medical marijuana business, how it's going to, bring in a whole lot of revenue, a lot of jobs, and everything like that. But the main thing is, I'll call them the medicine and stuff. I've witnessed people actually be cured from cancer, things like that, the MS people and stuff like that. All right. So what it is, the Rick Simpson oil, the oils you can grab of it, that's got the high THC to help kill the cancer cells and everything. The marijuana goes along with your diet change and everything like that. So I've seen kids get off seizure medicine. Take a couple drops of CBD oil in the morning after school. They're out playing, they're doing karate, they're doing cheerleading, they're productive instead of having seizures all day stuck in the house. I've seen, come on, there's just so much going on. ADHD kids, that I've worked with and everything are they're doing so much better by using it and everything compared to the pharmaceutical drugs they give you, like cancer, chemo and radiation. I've witnessed people get cured from it without any of that garbage. And I'd rather have healthy stuff in people's bodies than anything else. But I think it's good for Madison Heights to bring it, bring it in and everything. And it'll go over good. And as she was saying too about the unsavory places you have to go to. City Progress is moving up. Okay, and like you said earlier, 2 times in a row we got the restaurant thing or whatever. Hey, come on, I mean, let's keep moving forward. That's all I got to say. I said, bring it in here. Let's go.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. For anybody that doesn't know, I'm Cindy Holder. A couple of things. First of all, let me put right out there, I am not in support of heavy marijuana dispensaries, growing labs in the city. I don't think we're ready for that. I don't think there's enough background to know what's going to be required. I'm concerned about potential crime. I know the city council is considering a police and fire, not a bond, millage. Is part of that going to be used for overlooking these facilities, or is that going to require more? I don't know, and I'm not being facetious. I'm asking the question honestly. Secondly, I keep hearing about all the money that's going to come to the district, or to the city. Specifically, what dollar amount are we looking at? Can you give me, maybe not down to the penny, but an estimate of what it is that this is going to bring to our city? We know, as other people have said, it's going to bring some level of crime. We do know that there's going to be some level of problems with people having cash and having to go. My daughter-in-law works at Comerica Bank. Obviously, there's going to be some issues with all that cash and nowhere to put it. Those are kind of my concerns, just over the top. Last but not least, I do sit on the planning committee, and we had a meeting Monday. And the 2 things that I did bring up, and I'm sure that Mr. Bliss will bring it to your attention, but something that I definitely wanted to share with everyone is, according to the proposal that's sitting in front of you, people that live in mobile homes are not protected by the 500-foot rule, just by nature of how they're classified. So if indeed you're going to do this, please give them the same prerogative and privilege and protection that we're giving everybody else in traditional housing. Secondly, now I've lost my train of thought. I apologize. Mr. Bliss, help me. What was the second thing?
Cindy, thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure. Time's up, Cindy.
I'm sorry?
Time's up if you had one more thought.
It's lost.
It was parks.
Thank you. The soccer field, thank you, is not part of the restricted area, the big soccer field on John R., because it's not a park. So, thank you. Those are my concerns.
Hello, I'm Randy Kenny. I'm a 25-year resident of Madison Heights. I live at 122 East Kalama. Most people wouldn't know the difference between living next to a properly ran testing, processing, and growing facility or cars nuts. Most likely the reason they would know is people talking about it. Now let's talk about the people with their power overloaded and their AC stressed to the max. Everybody in the neighborhood knows who that guy is. He's trying to cover the smell of 50 skunks in his garage or his basement. That guy dictates whether I have my sister or my mother-in-law over. That guy invites thieves into our neighborhood and stresses our city services. That guy affects his unwilling neighbors every day. We have ordinances about chickens, potbelly pigs, and even what to do with my dog's poop, but nothing about the smell of 50 marijuana plants that my neighbor is trying to cover up. A smell ordinance would eliminate a lot of issues from growing outside to the people breaking into houses trying to find the weed. People like me would be able to open their windows in the summertime. Please address this issue. As for marijuana businesses in our city, any thriving businesses creates residual business around it. The people need to eat, get gas, shop, maybe even move closer to work. That money could bring more money into our city. Thank you.
You did fine, Mr. Kenny. Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Carolyn, and I'm from Warren, formerly from Madison Heights. I'm not a speaker, so I'm a little bit nervous, but I just want to say I'm here to support Boomer. I want you to understand that we are not blindly supporting Boomer. We have read a lot of the transcripts. We've done a lot of research on this. There is no proof, and we would like answers from the judge as to why he is insisting on putting this dog down when there is zero proof. I've always supported Madison Heights. I thought it was a great city. I'm very disillusioned by it now. I really am. And what I think is more important to look at is why this judge, without any proof, can put this dog to death, and he doesn't have to explain why, because I know the former and the current ACOs. I was very good friends with one of them. I've lost a friendship over this. This is how strongly I feel the need to be Boomer's voice. I've lost a really good friendship over this. And I know that they are good people too, and I don't think that they would support this either. I think this is above their head. I think that's what's more important here. This is above their head, and I think that this judge has other reasons for it, and I think that's something Madison Heights really needs to look at.
Would anyone else like to address City Council during this portion of the public comments? There will be a second public comment opportunity later, but that will be limited to medical marijuana comments. So I'll offer again if anyone would like to speak. This is just the general meeting open to the public. Would anyone like to be recognized, and maybe you're still collecting your thoughts or trying to stand up? Come back a second time. floor is yours again, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for putting up with my silliness that my family has for 80 years.
It's important that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. It is important. It's important for Boomer that I'm here. And I just want this council to know, in case you aren't aware of what happened to Sterling, Sterling was a beautiful dog, the most beautiful dog I've ever seen. He was brown, he was sweet, he was beautiful. He was adopted out. And when he left the rescue, he thought he was going to his forever home where someone would love him, hug him, and kiss him. Instead, someone took the dog and gave it to the person that they wouldn't give the dog to. He took the dog home from January till he murdered the dog. He would come home from work or wherever he was, and he would beat this dog in the face. He would double his fists up, and he would punch this beautiful, innocent dog in the face. His face was swollen and cut all up from this madman. And then one night he decided he's going to take him to the park. And I'm sure Sterling thought, oh my God, I'm going to the park, I'm so happy. And what happened in the park? He sat him up on a park bench and he stabbed him repeatedly, over and over and over and over, till he murdered this beautiful dog. And after he murdered this beautiful dog, he was still alive, and he left him out there to freeze to death on that terrible, terrible cold night that we had. And I just wanted this council to know what happened to Sterling. We can't help Sterling anymore, but we can help Boomer, who's another wonderful dog. And, you know, I'm an old woman, but I know right from wrong. I mean, I've been through the washer. But I can tell you, this dog is not guilty until he's proven guilty. And to put a dog down that you have no proof that did anything is just, what's going to happen to us? Are we going to do that with our human beings? Is somebody going to do something and somebody's going to say, you're going to get put to sleep because you did something? Well, you can't prove it, but you did it. This is not the way America wants to live. We have to have rules in society, and we have to make an example of this man so that some other rageful person doesn't go out and do the same thing. So we have to make some laws for these animals to protect them. And thank you for listening to me, but I have to say what I have to say, no matter where I am. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, it's me again. I've had time to think about this, and I wanted to share what a wonderful experience it was to go last night to Utica and see the mayor there, all the people joined together. I was so impressed with the community, how they came together to save this dog. I'm a little upset with my community that they are not taking this seriously, that there is no proof. We have read the transcripts, and I've gone and I've looked up the Honorable Keith Hunter, and I'm very ashamed that there is no evidence and nobody's taking this seriously. And you have the news people media on it, you have everybody else on it, and I would love to see Madison Heights officials be a part of something like what Utica did. They were amazing that they all got together and they had proof and they went after it and they did something. So I just wanted to be out there, and I'd love to be able to round around Madison Heights, the city of progress, and be able to have the mayor and everybody else there listen and become positive and start doing something good besides whatever you guys do. This is the first time I've ever come to a meeting. I've never been to one before. And I came here because of Boomer, and I wanted to be heard, and I wanted to be taken seriously. And sometimes I think none of you are taking any of us seriously. And I want it to be on record that I want Madison Heights to evolve, and this is the only way to do it. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks. Thank you. Would anyone else like to address City Council on any subject? All right, we'll close this portion of the meeting. Thank you for speaking tonight. For me, I think the city of Madison Heights was strengthened by your participation in our form of local government. Although public comment's not intended for a dialogue, we do hear you. We are listening. We take copious notes of your comments, your good ideas, your bad ideas, and we digest all that. I mean, we are a representative legislative body. But do remember that the rule of law prevents the legislative body from interfering with another branch of government. And the rule of law also prevents us from interfering in police cases. I mean, that's obstruction. We talk about obstruction of justice in Washington, D.C. You hear about cases of corruption from former city of Detroit officials. It's wiser than I am, but the system is for us to not interfere. And I have no more power than any of you regarding Boomer. However, you and I have equal power when it comes to our vote. We all get an equal vote for every judge. Who knew the name of the circuit court judge before this? Who knows the name of the appellate court judges, that panel who may get to hear this? It's very important that you understand who runs for city and county and state and federal offices. We all have the equal power, and that's where I join you, is at the voter box. I also want to state something to correct the record. This city council is very progressive when it comes to animal rights. Many of us are supported by the Michigan Political Action Committee for Animals, who has advised us for years, specifically myself. I can speak for myself. But this city council adopted a very modern and leading ordinance on anti-tethering to break through those old traditions of tying a dog unattended outside. This legislative body is very aware of the importance of animals in our lives. In my law practice, I represent people who have emotional support animals. I've seen that connection. It's beyond just a friend. It's a medically necessary companion. So don't be discouraged by the lack of dialogue tonight. Don't be discouraged by the lack of action of the legislative body. There's just no string we can pull. We can all write notes, we can all vote, and that's what I encourage you to do for the next step. So thanks for coming tonight, and you're always invited back the second and fourth Monday of every month. So we close this portion of the meeting. There are no communications, but there are 3 reports tonight. Remember, we added D3, but let's begin with D1. It's a report from the city manager. It's the confirmation of the finance director and treasurer position. Mrs. Marsh?
Pursuant to Section 3.6 of the City Charter, I respectfully request that council confirm my appointment of Linda Kuneth as the city's next finance director treasurer.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Corbett?
Sir, I move that the council approve the appointment of Ms. Help me with that pronunciation.
Kuneth.
I'm sorry?
Kuneth.
Kuneth. Okay. To be the finance director.
Thank you. Is there, and treasurer, is there support?
Your Honor.
Mr. Bliss?
I second.
Thank you. Motion was made by Councilman Corbett, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss to confirm the city manager's hiring of Ms. Kuneth as the finance director and treasurer. Is there discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. The next report is item D2. It's from the DPS director. It's the Red Oaks Youth Soccer Complex use agreement with the Madison Heights Youth Soccer Association. Mrs. Marsh?
City Council has approved use agreements with the Madison Heights Youth Soccer Association covering the last 9 years of operation from 2010 to December 31st, 2018. Staff and I recommend that council approve a new 3-year extension agreement with the term ending December 31st, 2021, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign on behalf of the city. All terms and conditions remain in effect, and the city attorney has reviewed and concurred with staff's recommendation.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council?
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I move that we approve the new 3-year extension agreement with the Madison Heights Youth Soccer Association with the term ending December 31st, 2021. I'd also like to add that we authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor.
Mrs. Scott.
Support.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott. A motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, seconded by Councilwoman Scott, to approve the 3-year extension for the Red Oaks Youth Soccer Complex use agreement between the City of Madison Heights and the Madison Heights Youth Soccer Association for a term set to expire December 31, 2021, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign on behalf of the city. Is there discussion? Hearing none, I'm sorry.
Hi, that's okay.
Welcome. Would you like to?
Yeah, so Jennifer McAllister from Madison Heights Youth Soccer Association. This is Mike Mandarino. He's one of our founders. We've been in the city since 2000 was when we were established, and we are happy to volunteer in the community in which we live and raise our families. So we thank you for approving the agreement, and we look forward to working with you guys.
I hate to put you on the spot, but hopefully it's a softball question or a soccer ball question.
Oh,
How many?
already blew it.
How many players are in the league, and how many teams do you have?
It changes each season, but usually right around 150 to 200. We're looking to grow that, and it's going to vary on how many teams that we have per season.
Roughly 15 to 20 teams usually.
Great. Okay. Thank you for coming here tonight.
Yep.
Is there a
We
discussion?
also do the small-sided games for the tots. We do
Oh, yeah.
4-year-olds. If anybody wants to come out and watch that, that'd be fun.
It's got to be adorable. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Is there discussion from City Council? All right, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Mike. We added a report tonight. It's item D3. It's confirmation of the 43rd District Court Magistrate. What's the wish of City Council?
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I move that we confirm the appointment of Tanya Bowers to the position of Magistrate of the Hazel Park Division of the 43rd District Court.
Thank you, sir. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
support.
Thank you, Mr. Corbett. A motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, seconded by Councilman Corbett, to confirm the appointment of Tanya Bowers to the position of Magistrate for the Hazel Park Division of the 43rd District Court. Is there any discussion on this item?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, please.
I would like to see our city issue James Patterson, our former magistrate, a certificate of appreciation for his long term
Great
as
idea.
magistrate in Hazel Park.
Thank you. I support that. Any other discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. There are no items for future public hearings, so we can go to bid awards and purchases. The first item is F1 from the DPS Director regarding the purchase of a brush chipper, the replacement of item 410. Mrs. Marsh?
Staff and I respectfully request that council approve the purchase of one Moorbark Eager Beaver brush chipper from Moorbark LLC in Wynn, Michigan, through the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Contract for a total equipment cost of $46,213.20. Funds are budgeted and available for the scheduled replacement.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
So I move that the council approve the purchase of the brush chipper 410 replacement from Moorbark LLC. The purchase price is $46,213.20. The funds are budgeted, sir.
Thank you. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Gettings?
Support.
Thank you, sir. A motion was made by Councilman Corbett, seconded by Councilman Gettings, to approve the purchase of the Moorbark Eager Beaver 2131 SA brush chipper from Moorbark LLC through the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Contract for a total equipped cost of $46,213.20. Is there discussion on this item? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item is F2, regarding the Nature Center display upgrades, the cost-sharing agreement between the city and the Oakland County Parks and Recreation Commission. Mrs. Marsh?
Staff and I recommend that council approve the funding for the Nature Center display upgrades project in a total amount not to exceed $22,500. This is the Madison Heights share of the total $50,000 project cost approved by Oakland County Parks. Funding is budgeted and available for a Nature Center project originally planned as HVAC improvements, and there are representatives tonight from the Nature Center if council has any questions.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
I move that council approves the funding for the Nature Center display upgrades project in a total amount not to exceed $22,500.
Thank you. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Grafstein?
Second.
Thank you. A motion was made by Councilwoman Scott, seconded by Councilor Grafstein, to approve the contract for the Nature Center display upgrades cost-sharing agreement between the City of Madison Heights and Oakland County Parks for a total amount not to exceed $22,500. Is there a discussion?
Your Honor?
Yes, please.
Just two quick items. First, this is repurposing the money that was budgeted for the HVAC improvements. Is that no longer necessary, or are we expecting to see that on the next budget year?
Actually, I'll defer to Joe Vitale because they did some different changes at the Nature Center, so he can elaborate.
Thank you, Your Honor. Councilman Bliss, a number of months ago, I approached council with actually the first part of the funding for the money that we had allocated this fiscal year, which included replacing all of the doors and an insulation project at the Red Oaks Nature Center. And Matt, we are underway or nearing completion with that. Matt's here.
Insulation upgrades, for the most part, was a little bit more that come back on the screen and complete with roof added insulation. The doors in progress, they've been ordered.
And as part of that project, we really wanted to discern exactly how that helped energy and use in that building. Now, while the HVAC thing has been tabled for now, we're going to continue to study that and see what improvements are going to need in the future. So we've tabled that. We'll continue discussions from a capital planning perspective, and then we're going to do these other improvements as part of that. So HVAC isn't done by any stretch, but will be continued to be studied by staff. I think at this time, though, it's a better allocation of our funds to make these necessary improvements at the Red Oaks Nature Center.
Thank you. Your Honor, if I may, one more comment. Similar comment that I made the last time that we invested a significant amount of money into the Nature Center. Our citizens still cannot park there without an additional fee. We have had some change in the I guess, electorate as far as the commissioners go. I would love to see a letter from staff seeing if we can have any type of an exception on any of the property that is adjacent to the Nature Center that is city-owned, but right now city residents have to pay in order to park at. I do understand that was a part of an agreement that was prior to me joining council, and it was needed at the time. Still needed now. I love the partnership with Oakland County. I am, though, asking that we can look into how we can get our residents the ability to park there without that additional charge.
Thank you, Mr. Bliss. I do want to recognize the efforts of County Commissioner Gary McGilvery,
Absolutely.
who really saved the Nature Center so many years ago by inspiring the city communications to deal to reopen the facility. So Commissioner Gary McGilvery, who's still with us tonight, former mayor, former city councilman, thank you for your work on the Parks Commission. To respect your authority, Commissioner McGilvery, are there any comments? I'll give the floor to you if you'd like to address any comments that Oakland County Parks and Recreation Commission had about this subject.
Yeah, just real quickly, I agree with what Mr. Bliss is saying with the parking. I've advocated for that on the County Parks Board. I've advocated for doing away with the park stickers. My opinion, it's double taxation. We're paying a parks tax on top of it, and then we have to pay to go use those parks. So, and I've brought that up at many meetings, and that's up for further discussion, I'm sure of it. So.
Thank you, Commissioner McGilvery.
Hey, one quick question.
Yes.
With you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Isn't that a street? There's a house on that street. So how does that make that property of Oakland County? It's a street. There's a house on it. So how can you be forced to pay to park on the street where there's a house on it?
Your rhetorical question is noted. Any other discussion from City Council regarding the Nature Center display upgrades project? Let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Where are we? Bid awards, item F3. It's from the fire chief. It's regarding the purchase and the financing of a new fire engine. Mrs. Marsh, do you have a report?
Yes, staff and I recommend that council approve the purchase of a new fire engine from Suffolk Corporation in the amount not to exceed $603,382.76 and authorized by resolution the city manager to enter into a 5-year installment purchase agreement with J.P. Morgan Chase Bank to finance $586,140,000 of this purchase under Public Act 99, with an annual payment of $129,194.71. We will also make an initial general fund payment of $17,243. If approved, the budget amendment for fiscal year 2019 would also be needed in the amount of $17,243 to the general fund fire equipment account. This purchase was not in the original fiscal year 2019 budget, but due to the poor condition of the engine, our original plan to phase fund this just isn't feasible. The first installment payment would not be due until February of next year, so the $129,194 would have to be budgeted in the upcoming budget year.
Thank you, Mrs. Marsh. What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Corbett?
Couple of questions, and I'll offer the motion.
Sure.
Is this going to require 2 or 3 motions? I say we've got the amount of 603, then we have the resolution to create the indebtedness, and then you have a separate motion for the amendment. How do you prefer?
The cleanest way is with 3 motions. So the first motion would be to approve the purchase with Suffolk Corporation for not to exceed $603,382.76. The second motion is to approve by resolution the authority for the city manager to enter into an installment purchase, and then you also need a budget amendment.
Well, that being the case, Mr. Mayor, it may be simple but not clean. I'll first move that the council authorize the expenditure of $603,382.76 for the purchase of a new fire engine from Stufen Corporation.
Yes, sir. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor.
Mrs. Scott?
second.
Thank you. Motion was made by Councilman Corbett, seconded by Councilwoman Scott, to approve and authorize the purchase of a Sutphin Corporation fire engine for an amount not to exceed $603,382.76. Is there discussion?
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Since this is the first of 3, I'll just ask my questions here. I'd love for the public to have a little bit of an understanding of the need for this new engine. Hopefully, maybe Chief can come up. It's $600,000, so I think it's important that we put on the record why this is necessary now. The other piece of this is the 5-year installment purchase. I'd love for staff to give a little bit of a synopsis on why that's the best move for the city.
I'll start with the chief. I did have photos on my computer, but I'm not sure where they are, so.
Thank you, Mayor. To your question, the fleet has deteriorated tremendously over the past 2 to 3 years. The major concern has been the corrosion that has been found on the frames from our third-party contract, R&R, which they advised us that the trucks are unsafe and they would have to be immediately addressed to be fixed at a minimum of $8,000 to $10,000, and that's just them taking the body off the frame, examining the frame, and then determining what additional. So at minimum, we're looking at $8,000 to $10,000, but possibly more. So we think for a long-term solution to get us into a place where we don't have to worry about this anymore. We've struggled, like I said, the past 2 to 3 years to keep these vehicles in service. With the efforts of DPS, that's why we looked at the third-party vendor to assist us with this, and that has worked out tremendously, but we need to get to a point where we have 2 reliable engines, and that's why we, the first one will be here in June, and we're looking for November for this purchase.
These vehicles also had significant maintenance cost, and by significant, I mean $100,000 or more, so it really becomes fiscally responsible also to repair these vehicles now. So on to your point about the installment for purchase. As far as I know, this is actually the first installment purchase that the city has entered into, at least since I've been here, which is almost 14 years now. And our traditional method of how we fund these are pay-as-you-go. So we phase fund, is what we call it, in the budget, and we put aside a little bit each year until we have enough money to pay cash. We had been phase funding the first engine that the chief just talked about that we're getting delivery in July, and we actually only have 2 phases of 3 of that funded. The third one was coming from next fiscal year, so we advanced purchased that to avoid some tariffs that we're going to have to pay, which is $17,000 that you'll be doing a budget amendment for in a bit. But when we found out the condition of these vehicles, so the phase funding process would have required us to save 3 more additional years. So that would have been 4 years from now that we would be replacing fire engine, the second fire engine. And it doesn't have a useful life of 4 more years. We're hopeful to just get it to November. I think it's going to cost us around $36,000 just to repair it to the state to get it to November. So phase funding is nothing more than financing. The company did offer us a reasonable financing rate, but I did shop that around. I worked quite hard to get a lower rate for the city for that, and actually ended up saving almost $11,000 by using J.P. Morgan Chase. The amount of money that we will end up paying in financing cost is still less than the amount of money that we pay in maintenance cost in 1 year, so it by far is beneficial to the city to go ahead and get that vehicle purchased now. That will set us up. We have 3 engines actually, so we can put the money in the 3rd engine to keep it on the road, hopefully for 4 to 5 more years. So when we get this 5-year installment paid off, we will be set up nicely to purchase that 3rd engine. And these engines have a useful life of around 20 years. So this seems to make the most sense. It definitely is the best for the fire department equipment. So that's why I brought it to council outside of the normal budget method.
Your Honor?
Yes, please.
Chief, before you sit down, can you go over a little bit about the calls that you handle year to year and how it's gone up tremendously?
Mr. Mayor, yes, that has been a taxing on the equipment. As run volume goes up, mileage and use goes up, so it puts more wear and tear on the vehicles, so which increases the maintenance costs on those vehicles. So yeah, we've had an increase year over year of runs. So yes, that is one of the factors that has contributed to the poor quality of the vehicles.
Do you know off the top of your head, isn't it hundreds, I mean, per year? Is there an estimate you can give us?
Pertaining to?
How many runs you
Yeah, last year we had over 4,800 runs.
4,800?
4,800 runs, yes. This year we're on pace to exceed that, but we're still early in the year, but around 4,800 calls for our 2 stations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
May I ask the chief, could you please specify how many of those, or the percentage that are actually fires, working fires, versus emergency situations?
Well, Mr. Mayor, when we talk about run data and we talk about actual fires, that is us doing some type of operation, removal of smoke, putting the fire out, an actual fire, we're talking around 100, 130 calls. But that doesn't include fire alarms, false alarms, car fires, but we're talking actual structure fires 130 times a year around. So the remainder of the 80+% is medical calls.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional comments? All right, this is just for part one of this package, just for the purchase. We'll vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The motion carries. What's the wish of council for the next part, the financing?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Scott?
I move for council to authorize by resolution the city manager to enter into a 5-year installment purchase agreement with J.P. Morgan Chase Bank to finance $586,140 of this purchase under Public Act 99 for a 5-year period with the annual payment of $129,194.71 and an initial general fund payment of $17,243.
Thank you. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Soltis?
second, please.
Thank you. Motion was made by Councilwoman Scott, seconded by Councilman Soltis, to authorize the city manager to enter into a 5-year installment purchase agreement with J.P. Morgan Chase Bank to finance the purchase of the fire engine. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The motion carries. Any other pieces to this package yet?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would move that the council approve an amendment in the amount of $17,243 for account 101-336-9820-000, which is the general fire equipment. I think I said the amount, didn't I? $17,243.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Corbett. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mrs. Scott.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Councilman Corbett, seconded by Councilwoman Scott, to approve a budget amendment for fiscal year 2019.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
For the record, I would note, I believe this requires 5 votes. I don't think you're going to have any no votes, but I could be wrong.
Noted. The motion was for a budget amendment for the amount of $17,243 in the account ending 9820000, general fund fire equipment. Is there discussion on this item? Okay, let's vote for this amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries 7-0. It carries. There are no more purchases this evening, so next we can move to ordinances. There are 2 for council's review. The first is item G1. It's ordinance number 2129, entitled Medical Marijuana Facilities, the second reading. Mrs. Marsh, do you have a report?
Presented for council's consideration is a proposal to add the new Article 16 to Chapter 7 of the city's business license ordinance, which would authorize and allow a limited number of medical marijuana facilities in the city pursuant to the Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act, or the MMFLA. This is the second reading. This proposed ordinance in general will authorize and provide for a limited number of medical marijuana facilities to be located in the city as sanctioned by the MMFLA. The proposed ordinance would authorize and allow up to 2 each of an approved Class C grower, processor, and provisioning center. In addition, the proposed ordinance would authorize and allow up to 4 secure transporters and safety compliance facilities. The proposed ordinance would further restrict the locations of these facilities to only M1 light industrial and M2 heavy industrial districts within the city. In addition, the proposed amendment adds that safety compliance facilities only may also be located in the O1 office business district within the city, in addition to the M1 and M2 industrial districts. The proposed ordinance provides that none of the authorized medical marijuana facilities shall be located within 500 feet of a school building, church, family child care home, group child care home, or a residential district, except for safety compliance facilities.
Thank you, Mrs. Marsh. Before I ask the wishes of City Council, we've, as previously noted, we invite members of the public to address City Council on this subject. So the meeting is again open to the public. we'd ask, of course, you could address any subject. However, it would be most relevant and useful if you limit your comments to the medical marijuana facilities ordinance 2129. And as before, if you could please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Direct your comments to me as the chair of this meeting, and it'd be helpful, although not required, to give your name, address, and affiliation. Good evening.
Rich Clark. I am a resident of Madison Heights and former councilman. After the last council meeting, it looks to me like the almighty dollar wins out over the health, welfare of our younger youth and the younger generation of our city. At one time, we had a youth across the street, 13 years old, that sold marijuana at Page Middle School. Along with that, at the same time, we had 4 dealers on our street, 2 of whom have been in jail numerous times, 2 that committed suicide. I had 2 brothers, as a family of 3 boys. The one passed away with cancer. The second one is barely hanging on, but they did get relief by using medical marijuana. I had a grandson whom we raised. He started with marijuana, but soon rose to bigger and better drugs. In time, we seen that he was going to do harm to his grandmother and myself. At that time, we had him committed. In 2 weeks, they kept him. The state said he was better and let him go, which was a crock. Not long after, I watched him die on the floor in my front room. I started CPR until rescue got there and took over. I asked him on the way out, did you get any response at all? They said none. Now I'm wondering if people help these kids get this marijuana, start with it, and they attend a funeral where drugs may have played a part, will they be able to look the mother and father in the eye and say, I'm sorry, maybe I helped put him there today? So I am strictly against recreational marijuana of any kind. Another thing is with the police department. What type of a load are we going to put on them? The court system. We don't have enough people to keep track of all this. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address City Council on this issue? Welcome back.
Hello, good evening. My name is Erin Lammers, and I'm a representative from Damascus Consulting and Development at 169 West Clarkston Road in Lake Orion. I want to thank the council and additional administrative staff for providing the opportunity to discuss the draft ordinance for medical marijuana in Madison Heights. I would also like to applaud the city on a well-intentioned and well-executed draft ordinance. On the municipal level, our firm strives to enact regulatory language which benefits individual municipalities and the communities they serve. Our partner organization, Weed Maps, who does not touch the plant, works toward the same goal. For the curious, Weed Maps is a nationally renowned tech mapping company for the cannabis industry, connecting patients with reliable information about nearby and far away medical facilities across the United States. On behalf of Weed Maps, I am here to recommend considering the stacking of licenses, specifically Class C grow facilities. We advocate for a free market business strategy which will benefit the cannabis industry beyond Madison Heights. Permitting business owners to choose to stack their grow facilities will encourage a competitive edge and bring more jobs to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
My name is Sonia Hoadley, and I just want to say I am in support of medical marijuana. It does a lot of good for a lot of people. There are a lot of elderly people who don't have the means to go to Detroit to go to a dispensary, and also disabled people. Transportation system sucks trying to go down there, and like the one person said, there are a lot of seedy areas to go to. Most of those are not licensed facilities, though, as the one woman who spoke knew nothing about what she was speaking of in regards to that. There's only about 5 actually licensed facilities in the metro area, and they go from one is over off of 8 in Gratiot to there is one at John R. and 8 Mile, and then they go farther to the other direction. So actually licensed regulated facilities are not that local and convenient for just anyone to go to. When it does good for people, it's important for them to have access to medicine. We put pharmacies on every street corner. Why shouldn't an older or disabled person have access to it? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite other comments regarding this issue.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and city staff and the city council members. I'm Terry Hamilton, and I'm the president of Ascension Macomb Oakland Hospital, and I am a member of the Chamber of Commerce Board here in Madison Heights and Hazel Park. As a person that stands at the intersection of the community's health and the community's business environment, I certainly recognize that the ordinance was constructed in a very thoughtful way, although I would not advocate for the ordinance, particularly as it pertains to dispensaries. According to research by the University of North Carolina's Department of Public Policy, bringing dispensaries into a community is correlated with statistically significant increases in a variety of crimes, namely murder, burglary, robbery, theft, and auto theft. According to the Journal of Drug and Alcohol Abuse in 2015, the presence of dispensaries has an impact on children. Higher use among those in grades 6 through 12, and higher acceptance of use among that same group of people. We often say at the hospital, if it wasn't for alcohol, tobacco, and high-fat foods, we'd have a lot less to do. And the difference between those products and the product that we're talking about allowing for dispensing today is that the bird has already flown on alcohol, tobacco, and high-fat foods, but it hasn't flown yet on dispensaries. Medical marijuana most assuredly has its place for those who derive benefit from its therapy. But given that it has its place, I would advocate that the place for distributing the product not be in Madison Heights. We only advocate for what we believe is in the best scientific and demonstrated good of the community's health. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. My name is Kim Clark. I'm a business owner and a resident here in Madison Heights. I live over at Hampton and Gardenia. I debated whether or not to say anything, but after this, I wanted to encourage everyone to look up the facts on medical marijuana dispensaries as they are allowed in cities, particularly in Colorado, where they are seeing a huge tax benefit for their citizens. I am for having these dispensaries in this city. I'm for the ordinance. I voted for it. I'm part of that 2/3. I also think that people do need a safe outlet in order to which to find that, because there are some seedy areas that people have to go to get to dispensaries, and the only reason for that is because it's been illegal. And so people from a CD element, always find a way. I think we can build a safe way for our citizens to be able to access medical marijuana or even recreational marijuana, just like we do with bars and cafes, things of that nature. I really appreciate the way that this city has written this ordinance and the organization behind it. I'm excited to be a part of Madison Heights, and I'm excited to be a part of its growth and development, and I can't wait to see how far this goes.
Thank you.
Hello,
Welcome
I'm
back.
Paul Sanders. I live on Rialto Street here in Madison Heights. I know I'm a little bit odd, a little goofy. I live with MS. I've lived here for 40-some years. I'm not complaining about the MS. It's just part of life. What I am complaining about is we have liquor stores all over this city. We have drugstores all over this city. If we didn't have enough, come on down to 11 Mile and John R. There's CVS directly across the street from Walgreens. And across from Walgreens, there's a drugstore. But good God, don't smoke a doobie, smile, and eat some pizza. Oh my God, don't do that. Why? We lost the Vietnam conflict. We heard it was a war. No, it was a conflict. You know what we came home with? A whole bunch of people had seeds. And they planted them. And we enjoyed the crop. If you want to stop people from smoking marijuana, go talk to our new governor. We have the right to grow 12 plants in our homes. We have the legal right. Some people shouldn't smoke grass. And some people shouldn't and don't smoke alcohol. But if you can, and if you do it like an adult, hopefully, and you don't harm other people, and you do it behind closed doors, and legally in your backyard, you have every right to. And as far as marijuana starts people on the road to drugs, the first thing that every kid, every person starts on is milk. So we're going to stop drinking milk too. So please, if you want to have a doobie, have one. If you can handle it, okay. If you can't, don't, and leave it alone. Same thing with alcohol and the other drugs. But please, that's enough with the stuff with marijuana. The governor has already passed the laws, and if you don't like it here, go to Canada. God bless y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Kendra Howard. I'm with Sector Connections. Sorry I didn't address the mayor and council. The hour is late, and I'm trying to just basically bring up some new points that had not been brought up earlier.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I apologize. I'm just so loud, I never know. Again, I'd like to commend the council for their work on developing this ordinance. Again, it is a medical marijuana ordinance. So some of the comments were brought up earlier about recreational, and that is, from what I understand, is not being brought up tonight. Also, some of the comments were talked about are people wanting to go to get their medicine, and they're concerned about going into seedy areas of town. One of the things that in this ordinance, it is, many of the facilities would be in an industrial area. One of the comments that I would like to respectfully request this body to consider is to perhaps, for the provisioning centers, consider in a general business center. That would take care of some of the comments that were said earlier about patients having to go to quote-unquote seedy areas where the general business district is more out in the open. Also, excuse me, Another concern we may have is to perhaps expand the number of facilities in reasonable zones. Not sure if 2 for all of those is acceptable or reasonable in a community of Madison Heights town size. And again, the hour is late, and I don't want to reiterate some comments that were said before, so I am just going to stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome back, Julie.
Yeah, I'm Julie. I promise I won't cry this time.
Me too.
I swear to God. Thank you. I really just want to speak to the good things that can come from a medical marijuana dispensary here in Madison Heights. And I'm going to speak to you as a citizen from another city. How I am. I'm from Clawson. And I don't drive. I haven't driven in 15 years. And I'm really, really happy. My hopes are way up for this because the ability for me to pick and choose dispensaries is not there. I don't drive, so if I'm going to go somewhere, someone's got to take me. I don't have a choice. I'm really, really hopeful that I'm going to get a three-wheeled bike this year, and I could ride my bike up to the dispensary, and everything will be roses from then on out. But I really believe that this dispensary would create so many jobs, and you know, as someone who doesn't. Well, I do work. I work twice a week. But I'm pretty much at home, you know? That's pretty much my life. And I don't want that to be it, you know? That's why I'm so excited about the stupid bike. Just getting that bike, it gives you freedom, you know? And when you don't have it, you really grow to appreciate it. And so I'm really hopeful that you guys will look favorably on this dispensary because I really believe it could open some doors for the city. And this is a great city. You know, it is. Look at this council, this attractive council. Do we have any more attractive?
I object to that.
Well, anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie.
I took your pen. I apologize.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is William Anderson. I'm actually a member of the community. I live on 29164 Mark Avenue in Madison Heights. I'm an owner of a state-regulated dispensary in Detroit in a very rough neighborhood. It's North Brightmoor, if anyone's familiar with that. Considered one of the murder capitals of Detroit. We've been open and operating almost a year now with 0 incidents in crime, theft, any kind of issue. If anything, the neighborhood has responded very, very well to us, kind of a different vibe. We've employed certain community members as well. I would just like to reach out to the council, anyone in the audience for or against this, to come down as a visitor, as a state licensed facility. If you'd like to learn or see this in action, I think a lot of people talk about this without any experience, but I'd like to open my door to anyone and any side of this and listen to them and definitely educate. Because I think a lot of this, the issues at hand are because of fear of the unknown.
What's the name of the business?
96 West Detroit.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, Council. Martin Sema, 535 West 9 Mile, CEO Hyatt Laboratories. About 9 months ago, we were awarded 5 licenses in Hazel Park, 4 Class Cs and a processing. We're looking to get vertically integrated in Madison Heights. We're building a benchmark, state-of-the-art, $4 million facility in Hazel Park. We want to bring the same package here in Madison Heights. We give a lot back to the city, to the community. Also, as far as, I want to talk a little bit about security and facts. We're being represented by one of the strongest companies, largest companies in the state of Michigan, W.J. Cousins. Look for Bill Cousins. If you want to reach out for any facts, they can give you everything. So I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, welcome.
It's bedtime. I am Laura Macaron. I am actually here with my sister back there and my mom. It was a busy night, apparently. We are business owners at 26201 DeQuinder, and speaking like on behalf of a business owner in Madison Heights. So we have been in Madison Heights for about 30 years now. We built it from the ground up, and my sister and I almost grew up there, and obviously have seen a lot of changes in the city. So while my mom is actually a resident of Warren, just on the other side of DeQuinder. So we've more or less grown up in this area. We've seen it in its greatest times, where we were so busy. We'd be open till 11 o'clock sometimes because the people were coming in and out. And we've seen it in its worst times. Where it's a struggle to pay the bills and keep the doors open. And here we still are standing. We've come past that, and that's great, in this economy and in this state, really. So a couple of things that, I did want to mention, as I said, we've been here for a long time. I am an advocate for the medical marijuana. I do agree with it, and I am glad to see, Madison Heights, a city of progress, headed in that direction and not immediately shutting the door on it as other cities have. Being a city of progress, I think that term can be defined in different ways by different people. Progress, I believe, is seeing the future and being a part of it, and I think that with this ordinance, that's exactly what you're doing. Times are changing, and you do have to be a part of it. Currently, I'm in the real estate and mortgage industry, so same thing. We saw it crash, and we're coming back from it. But we have our eyes out to see changes are coming. I don't want to ramble. So being a city of progress, I think that's headed in the right direction. A couple of things that were brought up this evening that were I think important to note is things that were brought up and then clarified. Oakland County, as you know, does not have a bunch of dispensaries. It is not something that you can go to. Typically, you do have to go to Detroit, and maybe you don't want to, and I wouldn't blame you if you didn't, because I wouldn't. I am not a medical carrier, card carrier, just to note. I am only speaking from as a business owner. But I do think it's important to a couple of things. Keeping in the industrial zone is keeping like a shame to it that I don't think exists. I think especially in the dispensary aspect of it, it's important to be part of business because these are human beings, these are people. We are not discriminating against them due to their disabilities. That's exactly what we stand against. So I think it's important to treat it like we would any other pharmacy. I think it's also important to bring new business. I think the idea of limiting it to the industrial and allowing for it to be stacked will really create monopolies and not allow for people to come to the city and not allow for new business to come to the city. And I think that's important. So I know I wanted to bring that up. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, one of the studies I know that was mentioned was talking about the way that children view it. And I think it's important to note that the building that I'm talking about, that my family is owned and that I grew up in, is a beer and wine party store. So here we've got beer, wine, gambling, a lot of the vices. But as a child and being brought up in it, we loved and accepted every single person that came in regardless of their vice. And two, because I was never protected from it and always understood it for what it was, being around it or understanding it, I think helped me as an adult not to see it as a bad thing. And I think it's important that marijuana is not, especially medical marijuana, is not looked at as a bad thing. And I think that also allowing it and putting it in a more general area will force education and for our children and for families to maybe talk about it a little bit more. And the only other thing I was going to say is...
You're over time.
Sorry, but I just saw, this lock maker company just shut down this month, laying off 103 people. A mortgage company shut down in September of last year, laying off 58 people. I think it's important to bring new business to Madison Heights. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. I also realize it's almost bedtime. My name is Deliza Lee. I'm here as resident of Madison Heights for about 16, going on 17 years. I live at 31800 Harlow Drive. And the majority of people here are really concerned about medical marijuana. And that's really not the issue. The issue is when it came up on the ballot for marijuana to be passed, to be legal, is the recreational use. That's the biggest problem. Everyone here is concerned. We all have health issues and different things that I'm beginning to experience also. But the thing is that people have a false sense of reality about having recreational marijuana. I heard people talk about they can go to Canada, go get it, but that's a whole different country. So when you come across that border with that free marijuana that you're picking up, that's another issue, another set of problems. So I think the problem, it really is the recreational use here in the city and the safety issues that may come along with it. We all don't have the answers to that, but I think that's what a lot of people are main concerns about, is that problem right there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again, Mayor, Council. Vita Palazzolo, Nanton. I'm speaking to the medical side of the marijuana issue. I found it interesting tonight that there were 3 of us here that battle multiple sclerosis, or MS. And if you, I know we're tired, if you took a look at all 3 of us, would you know that we have MS? Exactly, I mean, the catchphrase for a lot of chronic diseases is, but you look so good, And, but if I could turn myself inside out even tonight and show you the inflammation that is running up and down my nerves, then you'd know. Julie that left, she also has can't say the word, pseudobulbar effect, which depending where the lesion on your brain is, affects your emotions and can cause you to cry or laugh hysterically in very inappropriate places or for no reason. The gentleman that spoke, he came up obviously with some balance and limping issues. I struggle, and I'm just going to say it, with a lot of bowel and bladder issues. It's a snowflake disease, and so are so many of the other chronic illnesses. Medical marijuana is not new. Marijuana is not new. It was in biblical times. We're going back to the plants and to the natural healing processes, and I would rather do that than to have to take the 12 different medications that I choke down every morning. I trust you're doing it right. I'm not sure about the areas where it should be at. I respected the one person when she said to have it in the industrial areas, and I never thought about this. Puts a shame on it, that we can't just go, right next door to Save a Lot, or something, because in some people have shamed us, I use the handicap parking when my legs are feeling like lead and I have to grocery shop and I get dirty looks. So when I get out of my car, I go, and then they just kind of like keep walking, There's bumper stickers that say, yeah, you can have my parking, my handicap parking if you take my MS, So it's not a fun feeling. And for those that struggle other diseases and chronic illnesses, I pray that we find a way to do it respectfully, safely, and bring some revenue to the city. You know, for the longest time, I did not think I would ever be in favor of this. As a recovering alcoholic of almost 32 years, I thought, oh gosh, no, what are we doing? And then, you know, you don't get it until you get it. And when I got MS, and every day I'm still getting it. So I hope we do it right, and I respect you for you know, being on board of this. So recreational use, I'll talk to you in private, Mr. Bliss, so, at our arts meeting. No, because but God bless you guys, and thank you so much for what you're doing. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Richard Lewis. I'm a Madison Heights resident. Served as a director for the Madison Heights Community Family Coalition for several years. I just want to say a couple things, maybe a little different than what we've heard. First of all, thank you very much for the work that you have done on this. It is a topic that is on our doorstep, as it were, and it is something that I believe needs the discussion and the attention that we've been given by all the people here. I think there's definitely issues of marijuana and the use of it in medical situation. I know today we have not talked at all about, well, we just, Elijah brought up the recreational marijuana. I think, so bottom line is I think we are on a doorstep of figuring out how to handle this situation as it comes to our community and into our state. I do believe, like you've said, Mayor, several occasions, is that maybe the most effective form of government that we have is in the local level, because we have all these eyes and ears here to help put opinion and regulate. So I do appreciate having this forum in which we can talk about it. I think thing is that the discussion is now, and we've started talking about it. And I do think some of the things you have in this bill, or not bill, in this proposal that are interesting, and I'm grateful for. I think it limits the amount of dispensaries and things right now, because I think what we are going to see is this is going to be a forerunner for what is going to happen with our, I mean, now we're dealing with medical marijuana. In a year or two, we'll be dealing with recreational marijuana, and people will be asking the same questions of our city council. And so I believe a lot of the things we talk about now are going to be a precursor to how we're going to handle it in the future. So I say things that we need to do is maybe to you know, approach it with caution. I think some of the things in here show that. I think there's some things maybe that are not in this proposal that should be in the proposal, and maybe we need to take time to do this. And if this proposal gets passed or the proposal doesn't get passed, I think it gives us opportunity to discuss even further. There's things about security issues. I know bringing a medical marijuana dispensary or different facilities is going to have an environmental impact. I'm not a you know, I can't tell the future, so I don't know how it's going to be and how it's going to affect our community, because there's so many different, it's a very complicated issue. So I ask to proceed with caution, but I think things that have shown environmental protectiveness is security issues. I don't see anything in this proposal on what kind of security, environmental security issues are going to be addressed in the places that we are letting get set up. I think there's some things missing in this document that could be very useful for now and going forward. And so I think my thought, again, is some of the thoughts and stuff that you've had in here, I believe, and I appreciate the work that's been done. I'm also thinking maybe there's more to be done, more discussions to be had. I don't think this is going to be the end of the discussion. I don't think it's near the beginning, may not be the end of the discussion. So as you decide and you make a decision on it, understand there's some things that could be strengthened. Some of the information that we got here today from both sides, I think, but I think what Terry said is very true, is that the bird has sort of flown out on alcohol. We've used that as people. We've got alcohol, we've got tobacco places all over the city. That's already flown. This hasn't been. This is something we can really take hold of. And I hope that as things goes forward on a state and a federal level, I hope that the city and the local communities can really keep a hold of the keep a hold of the regulation. But go with caution, because once we open it up it's hard to go back and add things. It's hard to go back and add regulations. Can be done and has been done in Detroit and other places where things kind of got out of control. Make sure that we're doing it here, and make sure that you feel confident that this has got something that we can watch. I do appreciate the limitations that's on there already. Maybe look for some more as this progresses and this develops. My thought is continue working on it and get all the partners and all the community involved in that decision so we can make real good decisions, because it will affect how we deal with not just medical marijuana, but also how we deal with recreational marijuana as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Would anyone else like to address City Council? Is anyone else prepared to address City Council on this issue? Last call. All right, thank you for your time. What's the wish of City Council regarding ordinance number 2129, medical marijuana facilities?
Your Honor.
Mr. Bliss?
I move that we adopt ordinance 2129 on second reading.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Your Honor.
Ms. Grafstein?
Support.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, seconded by Councilor Grafstein, to adopt on second reading ordinance number 2129 entitled the Medical Marijuana Facilities. Is there discussion from members of City Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mrs. Scott?
I would like to offer a substitute motion.
Yes, please.
I move that the city prohibits the establishment or operation of any and all categories of marijuana establishments within its boundaries.
Would you repeat that one more time, Mrs. Scott?
Yes, I move that the city prohibits the establishment or operation of any and all categories of marijuana establishments within its boundaries.
Did she say medical? Okay. All right, thank you, Mrs. Scott. Is there a second for this substitute motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Soltis?
A second.
Thank you, sir. There was a substitute motion made by Councilwoman Scott, supported by Councilman Soltis, to prohibit the establishment and operation of any and all categories of the medical marijuana business. Did I state that accurately?
Yes.
Okay. Is there discussion on the substitute motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, could I expound upon why I'm voting this way?
Yes, please.
All right. I have several reasons. The Michigan Transportation Research Institute and the National Highway Traffic Association has both verified that driving under the influence of marijuana is associated with an increased risk of car crashes, especially fatal crashes, with marijuana. Today's marijuana is alarmingly more potent than it used to be. It's not permitted by federal law. And marijuana is now the #1 reason kids enter treatment for substance abuse, more than alcohol, cocaine, heroin, meth, ecstasy, and other drugs combined. It leads to a higher public health and financial cost for society. I do not advocate any influx of money coming in, because I think they're deceiving themselves and thinking there's going to be that much money coming into the city. In grades 6 through 12, they were more likely to have used and used it recently. There will be more illicit use by middle school and high school students. The product will be difficult to keep from the hands of minors. There's been a significant increase in the 5 types of crime arrests in states that have marijuana: murder, robbery, burglary, theft, and auto theft. Marijuana use leads to worse health statuses in individuals. There's a worsening academic performance for college students when using marijuana. And adult policy changes regarding marijuana have a clear effect on adolescent attitudes and use rates. There's legally protected marijuana dispensers appear to increase arrest rates, and marijuana use was significantly increased, related to increased levels of reported stress, anxiety, and depression. I take this information from many people I've researched, plus doctors I've talked to, and the most reason I would like to prohibit marijuana in our city is because of the stress that it's going to be on the police department, the cost that we'll have to have more police officers here. I don't think they need any more burdens than they already have.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott. Is there any other discussion on the substitute motion brought by Councilwoman Scott? All right, so the substitution motion is on the floor. I'll repeat the motion, then we'll do a roll call vote. The substitute motion is to prohibit the establishment and operation of any and all categories of medical marijuana business. It's
Within
the
its
substitute
boundaries.
motion. I'm sorry?
Within its boundaries, I had that on there too.
Okay, of course, as stated by Councilwoman Scott. So we'll do a roll call vote. This is the substitute motion to prohibit, as stated by Councilwoman Scott. Will the clerk please take, if you support the substitute motion, it's a yes. If you oppose the substitute motion, it's a no. Is that clear? So the substitute motion of Mrs. Scott is what's
yes.
up for vote.
Right.
Is everyone clear on how they shall vote? Okay. Clerk, please.
Councilman Gettings.
Yes.
Councilor Grafstein.
No.
Councilwoman Scott.
Yes.
Councilman Soltis.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bliss.
No.
Councilman Corbett.
No.
Mayor Hartwell.
I vote no. The substitute motion fails by a vote of 3 yes, 4 no. Thank you. So the original motion is still on the floor. The original motion was brought by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, seconded by Councilor Grafstein, to adopt Ordinance 21 on second reading. Is there discussion regarding the original motion?
Your Honor.
Yes, please.
So the comments that we've had tonight, and so many incredible comments on both sides of this issue, I think really highlights how educated the public is about this issue on both sides. I think a little more than 10 years ago, medical marijuana, which is what we're talking about here tonight, was approved by the state, but also approved within the boundaries of the city of Madison Heights. So voters at that time voted to allow for medical marijuana almost 2/3 of the vote. Previous councils, as well as this council, including my time on this council, decided not to act. There was a cautious approach to it. Nobody jumped in, not myself, not any of those who came before me. And this council met several times with several legal opinions, trying to understand this issue in its entirety before making any type of an action. And one of the things that I wanted to see, and I know others wanted to see as well, was what would our city do in the recreational vote? Those are two different issues, medical versus recreational, as you've heard from many comments tonight. But we wanted to see if that went up, if it went down, what was the level of support with our residents who were here to serve. And so looking at those results, it actually increased over medical. More than 2/3 of our residents in the city and every one of our precincts except for one voted in favor of recreational marijuana. And so that drove my support of getting something done. When that many residents say that they are in favor of something, I view it as my job to act. But the other side of this issue is equally as important. There was 1/3 of our residents, almost 1/3, who were not in favor of it. And so we have to take that same cautious approach to this ordinance to make sure that it's done in as safe and as cautious of a way as possible as we enter into what is new ground. There are very few licensed facilities in this area, and so we need to make sure that we're taking a cautious approach. And so I'm really proud of the ordinance that we put together. Our legal team worked countless hours drafting this. It went before citizen boards of planning. This is now the second reading here today. And part of it, as you heard in the comments, is to not just limit the amount that we are approving as far as available licenses, but it's also scoring them based on things that will provide us higher quality applicants, those that we want to be that initial wave, ones that won't have any more crime than any of the big box retail stores that our officers currently have to go to today. And so I just wanted to let everybody know, I appreciate the comments. I appreciate how well informed every one of you were on both sides, and I hope that you'll appreciate that we on council, those for or against, we've had this same debate, and I personally am very proud of the output of that debate. I think it's going to be beneficial to the city, and it's done in such a way that there won't be any catastrophic problems that we couldn't walk back if that was necessary. So that's all I have, Your Honor. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Is there other discussion from City Council on the original motion?
I would just like to make a comment as well. I want to thank everybody who spoke tonight, especially those of you who shared personal and painful stories. There are a lot of reasons why I think that medical marijuana should be legalized and should be legalized in our city, and it was touched on here. The mobility issues. You know, the one woman spoke about she hasn't driven for 15 years, I'm guessing because of her medical condition. And the one woman spoke about how people say to her, but you look normal, you look fine. There are many invisible disabilities. You don't see them. You look normal, you look fine, but you need to take medicine for it. And that's ultimately what this is. It was mentioned tonight that this is biblical. It is biblical. Marijuana has been around for thousands of years, and there's many reasons that it became illegal. I'm not going to get into the history of that, but part of what happened, part of the reasons that doctors stopped prescribing it is because different strains are different, and what one of our MS patients tonight would need, another one wouldn't. And I'm not a doctor, but the doctors who, it's easier for them to prescribe a pill. Everybody who has ABC, they need to take this pill. If you have DEF, you take this pill. Marijuana is different, and sometimes you have to play around with it. So to me, and I know, and then there's all the financial benefits that people have talked about and whether or not we reap them. This is providing access to patients to their medicine. Why would anybody want to deprive our residents or anybody access to their medicine?
Thank you, Councilor. Any other council comments on the original motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
Yeah, just a couple things I wanted to put in. There was an article in the Free Press about a week or two ago. Yourself, the Pro Tem, and some unnamed member of the city was quoted in it extensively. You will not divine my vote from my opinion of that article. I was very disappointed in that article. I thought it mischaracterized what we're doing to a large extent. I think my biggest single concern is my vote this evening is driven by compassion and by the convenience of our residents in making the medical resources available to them. I am very skeptical of the money claims. And you know, for the last few weeks, I've had it rattling around in the back of my head. Where have I heard this before? And then finally it occurred to me this afternoon, it was the lotto. You remember years ago that we were going to get all this money from the lotto, and it was going to cure our educational system, and the schools were going to be the finest in the country. Well, how'd that work out? And there are any number of ways for the money to be diverted on the way from Lansing to this building. And I guarantee you more than a few will be found. So my rationale has, I think we will get some money. I think there will be, as the Pro Tem mentioned in the article, there may be some tax improvements with buildings that are rehabbed and stuff. But if that were, if money were the driving factor on this, I probably wouldn't be involved. But I think that I think that overall, I think we have to be driven by compassion. Now, having said that, am I naive enough to not think that this has opened the door and we're going to be doing recreational at some point? I do. I do. Come on. That's inevitable. I suspect, though, that even if we were to block it here a year from now, 2 years from now, the next council were to block recreational coming in, there will still be an end round, either from the state or the federal government. I genuinely believe that this whole mechanism that we have now, the state licensing and the local people licensing and all that, that's going to be gone. I don't know if it'll be 5 years, 10 years, but certainly in the next few years, you're going to walk into a party store and they're going to have cigarettes and they're going to have the alcohol and then they're going to have the pot or whatever. I mean, that's inevitably, the money's going to drive it. I just read this afternoon that, I forget the name of the tobacco company, the one that puts out Pall Mall, it made a several $100 million investment in growing techniques or something. So, you know, somebody was talking about the train leaving the station. Yeah, it's the express train going out now. So, I mean, my vote this evening is for the medical. I am skeptical somewhat on the recreational. We'll see where that goes. I don't think we're going to be rich off this deal. That's not going to happen. As far as the enforcement rules, I think the security, oh, and to the lady who said something about putting it in the industrial zone, and you know, I thought about that because that was something that I had pushed for in the, it doesn't have anything to be honest with you, with shame or anything on either the product or the people. It had mostly to do with the security issues. I was looking to take it out of the greater flow of general traffic, including children and others. So that was the drive for it. It really didn't have anything to do with that. And there are certain buildings in industrial zones that have elevated security that you could not have in a commercial zone. I can't run a party store with that level of security. So I guess I hit the points I wanted to, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I support the ordinance, and I appreciate the comments from the public. It's difficult to get up to this microphone and address government, especially if you're on the opposite side of the majority of the government. That's an intimidating position to be in. So I thank you, those brave souls who came up here to speak your mind. I'm also deeply moved, and I think all of us were, whether you support this or not, by some of the patients who detailed the physical challenges they go through every day. That's amazing bravery for you to open up in a public forum to try to influence your government on such a personal level. That I hope that's never lost on anyone here. And of course I have compassion, and I never want to lecture or judge someone who finds therapeutic use in a medicine. And so that's why I think 2/3 of our voters supported the medical marijuana initiative 10 years ago. I think it's similarly connected to why 2/3 of our voters supported recreational marijuana just last November. And so as the mayor of this city, I feel compelled to speak for those 2/3 of the voters who've gone on record twice now on the issue of marijuana. I mean, so seldom is there a published record of what the voters want. So personally, from a compassion point of view, I support medical marijuana. As a representative governmental official, I support medical marijuana because that's what strong majorities of the voters have spoken on. And I also believe that our Madison Heights ordinance is uniquely Madison Heights. And I believe it's a very cautious introduction for this industry. You know, it's probably false to even call it an introduction to this industry, because let's not forget that medical marijuana has been in Madison Heights for decades. It's been in houses. It's been in apartments. It's been in even businesses. We know it's there. It's nothing new to the streets and the neighborhoods of Madison Heights. What's new is how we legislate it, how we control it, and how we work more personally, face-to-face, with these providers. I strongly believe that industrial zoning is the right location for this. For one, from a broader city perspective, I think it'll help clean up some of our older industrial sites that have sat vacant for years. That's great for the city. Millions of dollars of physical improvements will be put into buildings in Madison Heights. I'm also enthused by the amount of employment this will provide. Many of these businesses are not just mom and pop, but they are large corporations that will employ dozens of employees each. Our ordinance actually gives preference to those applicants who have licensed professionals on staff, lawyers, doctors, accountants, those who have a lot to lose in their career if any law is broken or if there's any misstep. We've created a very high bar to entry to the city of Madison Heights. We're not welcoming the riffraff, we're welcoming sophisticated businessmen and women. And remember, none of our laws in Madison Heights are written in stone. Everything can be amended. So I intend on studying very closely how this affects our city. And I think year to year, I'll just take a look at it, and I'll listen to the voters, I'll listen to the business owners, and I'll see if any amendments need to be made. But right now, I'm proud to support this, and my vote will be yes on this ordinance. Is there any other discussion from members of City Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mrs. Scott, please.
I have several items that I would like to have added to the ordinance that I think will assure that there's more caution, as Mr. Lewis advised us to do. Do you want me to list them individually?
Please, in any manner you'd like.
All right. I think that the provision and the ordinance that was drafted took a lot of time on our city attorney's parts. I think they did a wonderful job on writing it up, but I have several concerns that I would like to bring forth. Since the majority seems to advocate the use of marijuana in our city, I would like to suggest that they consider the following points. One would be to include a buffer zone as 1,000 feet, not 500. Also, that we not use the term residential uses, that we do use the term of residential uses, not residentially zoned, because residential properties are often grandfathered into industrial and commercial zones. There are many licensed at-home facilities. Have we really explored where they are? Do we have a list of what they are? I would think there would be an added security added to every building, and that would be security doors, bars on windows, licensed security guards who are drug tested on duty at all times. This would ensure that the minors will not be able to enter the facilities. I think there should be record keeping, should be seed to sale tracking of product. And again, I would like to ask for security guards to be on present that do not use medical marijuana. Also, I would like to add the suggestion by Ms. Holder that trailer parks be classified under residential use. I know that they're zoned otherwise, but I think they should be considered because there are folks living in them. So I would like all these items considered if you're going to pass this.
I think the most effective procedural tool, Mrs. Scott, it would be, of course you can do whatever you want, but my recommendation would be to only offer a substitute motion if one of the 4 people who just recently voted no on your previous substitute motion would cross the aisle on any of those. if you don't think you can get one of those 4 votes to cross the line, your substitute motions would be futile. So what I'm saying is, of course, you can offer substitute motions, but unless you feel that one of those 4 votes would cross the line, it's unlikely your substitute motion would pass. So I guess the floor is yours procedurally, and if you want to offer, official substitute motions to be voted upon, or we'll just let the record reflect your strong statements.
All right, so do you want me to make an official substitute motion?
It's
At this
your
point?
decision. I'll leave that completely up to you. If you think you've persuaded one of the 4 to change.
Then I would make a substitute motion to enlist all of the facets and the characteristics that I specified. Do you want me to state them again?
The record does reflect them. If you want to give a summary.
The summary that I would give, not regarding the substitute motion, but my feelings about this,
Well, then let me get a second for your substitute motion. So,
Okay.
Councilwoman Scott offered another substitute motion to add additional provisions to an adopted ordinance. So adopt on second reading this ordinance with additional provisions.
No, Mr. Mayor, I do not agree on adopting this resolution at all. So I am asking the council to consider the suggestions that I gave them when they are tying up the ordinance. I do not support this. This is just suggestions.
So no substitute motion?
I guess that's what you want to term it. Suggestions to consider for the majority that's deciding how the ordinance is going to read.
Mrs. Scott, I realize it puts you in a peculiar procedural position, but to get these new provisions, someone will have to do a substitute motion to adopt the ordinance with the provisions raised by Councilwoman Scott.
And I don't agree with adopting the ordinance at all.
Of course.
That's why I'm offering these as considerations for anybody who has their fingers on that ordinance to consider all these items that I mentioned.
I think your suggestions are very thoughtful. I don't support them, but I appreciate your studying on this.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I just wanted to address one of the things that Councilwoman Scott brought up regarding record keeping of seed to sale. There is a state requirement that the city will require any licensee to follow the state requirements with regard to, there's a computerized tracking system that the state is requiring all these facilities to use, recording, as you properly indicated, seed to sale, which will be subject to inspection by the state and by city officials in operating that business to keep track of that. So one of your 5 suggested additions is currently, even though not stated in our ordinance, because we rely heavily on state law, rely heavily on the administrative rules that require a lot of different requirements of these facilities. Our reliance on that does include that in this particular ordinance. So I just wanted council to know that one particular thing that you mentioned is basically included in the ordinance as is. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, please.
I also, I have something I'm very concerned about in the mention of this ordinance. And it comes in license requirements under section 7305. There is a statement here where it says, the city has limited the number of licenses issued under the article and may revise this limit from time to time. I feel that's an open-ended statement and there should be much stricter restriction put on there. And I don't like the word may, because that could come up at any time.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, were you? Mr. Mayor, if I may respond?
Yes, please.
Even though we use the word may amend, it would require coming back to this council for a ordinance amendment to allow any additional facilities. And this conversation could be had all over again with regard to council and your concerns one way or the other regarding how many licenses. It doesn't just allow staff to amend the number of allowed licenses, doesn't allow this council to enact a resolution to amend the number of licenses. It would require an actual ordinance amendment, first and second reading, to change the number that has been approved by the majority in this version of the ordinance. But thank you for your concerns.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please, Mrs.
Another
Scott.
concern of mine is in section 7308, scoring and selecting applicants, where it keeps mentioning the city. The city shall select the applicant or applicants. I feel very unsure. Who is the city? Who is referred to by the city? And what criteria are you going to give for the people that are choosing this? Who are they going to be? Who's going to appoint them? How are they selected? So I would like that spelled out in the ordinance.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. We deliberately use that word to give the city flexibility in the group of people, presumably department heads, which, if you recall from previous meetings with all of us and legal, discussing the legal opinions and various options available to the city, that it was pretty much directed to that the city manager, somebody from my office or myself, and possibly a third department head of the city be responsible for scoring and ranking those applications that are received. Based on what we're anticipating to be a very large number of applicants, being a very competitive application process, number one, to answer your question regarding how will they know, the ordinance spells out a very specific scoring criteria, and that criteria will be applied in an extremely objective manner. In speaking with the city manager, given the anticipated competitiveness of the applications, we have discussed seeking the assistance of a third party that is a professional company that does the evaluations of applicants. It would initially rank them for us and weed through the volumes of paperwork that we anticipate receiving with these applications, because among other things, all applicants will have to be pre-qualified by the state in order to even apply. So in staff discussions, it was discussed in the ordinance provides for allowing a third party, independent third party that does that type of work for these ordinances to initially score applications, and then ultimately approximately three department heads, a representative of all sides, including for and against or neutral, and we're staying as neutral as possible as department heads, to evaluate and assign final scores to the finalists to assess those applications, which, based on direction of the majority of council, will bring the most benefit to the city based on those scoring criteria. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
Can I ask either of the city manager or the attorney, is this third-party cost at no cost to the city? Or is there going to be a cost, and what would the cost be?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Yes, there'll be a cost. I don't know the cost. We haven't investigated the cost yet because we're early on. And just for any members out there that might be interested in applying, if this ordinance passes tonight, it won't take effect until 10 days from today's date. And then the ordinance provides a time period for the city to prepare the application materials of at least 60 days. So we, for a minimum period of at least 70 days from today, if it passes, will not be accepted. So we can investigate and come back to council with resolutions for licensing fees and application fees, which council will still have to decide at a later date if this passes tonight. And number two, maybe come back to council with the process or the fees regarding those. Initially, I thought we had a private party or an expert that would charge the same reasonable rate that the city attorney's office charges the city. Unfortunately, they respectfully bowed out. So we're looking at a couple of options. I have no idea, unfortunately, what those costs would entail. but probably much cheaper in reality than paying your legal department and your department heads to sit down and review the volume of documents that we anticipate to receive in this matter.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Gettings, please.
Do we have a motion on the table?
No, only the original motion to adopt as printed. There's no present substitute motion.
Okay.
Is there other discussion from members of City Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, please, Mrs.
I'm
Scott.
sorry for everybody who's been sitting here all this evening, and I have greatly appreciate all the comments you've given us, because in order for us to make the right decision for the city, we need to have your opinions, and I take them very wholeheartedly. But after serving on youth assistance for several years and the Family Coalition for several years, my job was to try and keep dangers out of the hands of young people. I don't believe that this is going to do that. I think they are going to get a hold of the substances in any way they want to. They already do now. And so I'm opposed to this for that reason, and especially, again, I'm opposed to it because of the involvement, the extra involvement it's going to take for the police and for the fire, because they're going to go on a lot of more emergencies. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott. Is there other comments? Are there other comments from members of council? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. This is on the original motion to adopt ordinance number 2129 on second reading entitled the Medical Marijuana Facilities. If you support that motion, the vote is yes. If you oppose the motion, it's no. Does anyone need clarification on what the motion is or how to vote? All right, will the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Counselor Grafstein?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scott?
No, excuse me.
Councilman Stoltis?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Bliss?
Yes.
Councilman Corbett?
Yes.
Councilman Gettings?
No.
Mayor Hartwell?
I vote yes. The motion carries 4-3. The ordinance is adopted. We move on to the next item on our agenda. It's agenda item G2, ordinance number 2130, first reading of zoning text amendment 19-10. Mrs. Marsh?
On February the 5th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing regarding the zoning for the ordinance that you just heard, which is text amendments 19-01, ordinance 2130. The proposed revisions to our zoning ordinance allow, as a permitted principal use, approved and licensed medical marijuana facilities, and I'll kind of interrupt here to show on the screen in green actually are the different areas where this would be allowed. So the M1 light industrial, the M2 heavy industrial within the city, and in addition, the proposed zoning amendments add a safety compliance facilities only may also be located in the O1 office building district within the city, in addition to the M1 and M2 industrial districts. Because the M2 zoning ordinance automatically includes all permitted principal uses in the M1 district, there was no need to amend the M2 zoning ordinance because all M1 uses are also included uses in the M2. Planning Commission did recommend approval of these text amendments.
Thank you, Mrs. Marsh. What's the wish of City Council?
Your Honor,
Mr. Bliss?
I move that we adopt ordinance 2130 on first reading.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Your Honor.
Councilor Grafstein?
Support.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, seconded by Councilor Grafstein to adopt on first reading ordinance number 2130, the zoning text amendment 19-10. Is there discussion from City Council? All right, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed say no.
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 I believe the motion carries 4-3. Is there any objection to how I read that vote? All right, the motion carries 4-3. Continuing on. Unfinished business, there is none tonight, but we have 2 sets of minutes for adoption. What's the wish of council regarding the meeting minutes of January 14th?
Your Honor,
Mr. Bliss?
I move that we adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting 1/14/19 as printed.
Thank you, sir. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Corbett? Thank you. Is there any discussion regarding Mayor Pro Tem Bliss and Councilman Corbett's motion to adopt as printed the regular council minutes of 1/14/19? No discussion, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. What's council's wishes regarding the special meeting minutes?
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I move that we adopt the special council meeting of, the minutes of the special council meeting of 1/24/19 as printed.
Thanks. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Gettings?
support.
Thank you. Any discussion regarding Mayor Pro Tem Bliss's and Councilman Gettings' motion to adopt as printed the minutes from the special city council meeting of 1/24/19? No discussion. Let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There's a vacancy on the Planning Commission. It's a mayor's appointment. As the mayor, I appoint Michael Honer, he's currently serves on the ZBA, and it'd be my appointment for Michael Honer to be the ZBA representative on the Planning Commission for a term to expire concurrently with the ZBA term, which is 2/1/21. So I'd ask that council affirm the mayor's appointment of Michael Honer to planning.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Corbett?
Perhaps you might mention to the council that you're changing appointees. This is a change. You are removing a member and appointing somebody different.
I'm just filling a
Which is your
vacancy.
choice, but you might mention it to the council before it votes.
I'm just filling a vacancy.
No, you're not.
Is there support for, is there a motion to adopt the mayor's appointment?
Mr. Mayor, I would
Ms.
like
Grafstein?
to
Affirm the mayor's
affirm the
appointment.
mayor's appointment.
Thank you. Is there support?
Is there something that we don't know about, or is that a silly question?
It could come up for discussion.
Can we all be included, or no?
Yeah, of course, yeah. But there would need to be support for the councilor's motion.
Your Honor,
Yes?
I'll support.
Okay, Mr. Booth. There's a motion made by Councilor Grafstein, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, to affirm the mayor's appointment of Michael Honer to the Planning Commission as the ZBA representative for a term to expire 2/1/21. Is there discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
The seat is currently held by Cindy Holder, who is qualified in attendance and is a constant member. I mean no disrespect to Mr. Honer, but I think the day we start pulling these games with these appointments is the time that we're going to have more troubles than we deserve. So here's the thing. If you start putting people on who don't always agree with your opinion, then you're going to start hearing what you want to hear, not what you need to hear on the boards and commissions. There's no reason for Mrs. Holder to be removed. So with no disrespect to Mr. Holder, I will not vote to confirm him at this time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, Mr. Gettings.
nothing against you, Mrs. Holder. We don't always get along, but in this case, I don't think you're getting a fair shake. And I think we should try to do the right thing and put personalities aside. Nothing against you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know the whole story. This is the first time I heard of it tonight. But I think we should be fair to somebody that served a long time, not only on the school board, but also on the zoning board. Is that what we're speaking of?
The Planning Commission.
Planning, excuse me. My mistake. That's my 2 cents.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Soltis, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little confused too. Is Ms. Holder resigning?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just clarify the
yeah.
subject. I believe Mrs. Holder's appointment expired a little while ago. In August, it wasn't filled, and so technically, currently, it's a vacant position because she...
That's not correct. I'm sorry.
Well,
No, it's not.
she wasn't reappointed, but she serves until her replacement is appointed, and
Yeah,
that's...
it's not technically anything. I don't want
Correct.
to be disrespectful.
No, and you're
or out of
correct,
order,
but-
but no, that she was still in
She
that
serves
seat.
until her replacement is,
Yes.
according to our charter, She
Yeah.
serves until her replacement is appointed.
Correct.
Which I believe that's what the mayor is proposing this evening. But her term technically expired, even though she serves until the replacement is.
Yes.
Or she's reappointed. So that's technically how we got here today, I believe.
Well, if this is a volunteer city, that we're so great with our volunteers, here's somebody that's putting their time in an unpaid position. Where's the fairness at? I'm sorry, I just have to speak up.
I talked to Mr. Honer. He's willing to accept the position. He's served on both boards, or he's served on the ZBA and other city boards in the past, and he's willing to accept this appointment.
In all due respects, Mr. Mayor, isn't seniority something that we look at sometimes? And I don't know,
Yeah, of course, there's a
Both
balance
are-
of seniority and qualifications and attendance and, policy view. Yeah, it's a mix of qualifications.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I tend to agree with Mr. Gettings and Councilman Corbett. I think that Cindy should be left on that committee if she doesn't want to resign. I don't think there's any reason for her to be removed.
All right, any other discussion?
Your Honor?
Yes?
Just a question here. In the mayor's appointment, the confirmation has to take place for it to be able to move forward, correct? Just as a point of order? Okay.
A simple majority?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Any other discussion? All right, the motion on the floor is to affirm the mayor's appointment of Michael Honer to be the ZBA representative on the Planning Commission for term expiring 2/1/21. If you vote to support the mayor's appointment, you vote yes. If you if you do not support the mayor's appointment, you would vote no. Could we do a roll call vote so I can understand this better?
Yes. Councilwoman Scott.
No.
Councilman Soltis.
I had to be second, huh? No.
Mayor Pro Tem Bliss.
Yes?
Councilman Corbett.
No.
Councilman Gettings.
no.
Councilor Grafstein.
Yes?
Mayor Hartwell.
I vote yes, so the motion fails, 3 yes to 4 no's. There's 2 applicants to the Zoning Board of Appeals. These are not mayor's appointments, so it would take a motion of council to consider the 2 willing renewals.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Sir, I move to reappoint Francis Kirchhoff and Clifford Oglesby to terms expiring 2/1/22.
Thank you. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mrs. Scott.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion to reappoint them? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Are there other appointments tonight?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I would like to make an appointment to the Crime Commission.
Are we ready to do that?
Yes, we are.
They're mayor's appointments. I haven't reviewed all the applications yet. I'm not going to present any tonight. Sorry. Any other appointments tonight? All right, hearing no appointments. There's no, we can continue on the agenda. There's no executive session tonight. So before we adjourn, I'd invite any closing comments from members of City Council and the staff. We'll begin with Mr. Corbett.
I have about a 20-minute or a half hour. No, actually, I'll cut it short. I do have one item that I want to, it's time sensitive, but not that time sensitive. I would ask the city, refer an item to the city manager and the city attorney's office, an ordinance revising our code regarding fireworks usage in the city. During the lame duck session of the legislature, permission was given to the cities to more tightly regulate the dates and times for use of fireworks. If there's one thing every summer I get, and my phone probably only rings second only to the police departments, is complaints about kids being woke up at 12:30 in the morning and dogs going crazy at 3 in the morning. So I would like to take a look at that. Royal Oak this evening is considering an ordinance that I think is well worth our consideration. We should take a look at it. And it doesn't eliminate it. There are 3 days you're allowed. It reduces from 30 potential days to 12. And it catches the big ones. It catches the 4th of July, Memorial Day, and New Year's Eve. So I would refer that and ask council to take a look at what any input they may have, and we'll see what the administration comes up with on that. But I would recommend you take a look at the Royal Oak ordinance. It seems fairly sound. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Bliss?
Yes, Your Honor. So 2 quick things. First and foremost, generally, I support the mayor's appointments. That was a interesting discussion that I don't think happened. I'd love to see a little bit of a report in the confidential. I serve on the Planning Commission, also with the mayor. I'd love to hear a little bit about what the rationale on that was. There was a lot, as I think Councilman Exalta said, there was a lot that I think the conversation didn't happen, and I'd like to know what it was and just have a little bit more into the report if that's possible. Because as Councilman Gettings said, people do invest their time, and I want to make sure that we give some deference to that. Second piece tonight, speaking of people investing their time, we have an insanely phenomenal Arts and Culture Board. I've got 2 members sitting right in the front row here tonight. This Arts and Culture Board is doing a lot of work right now to raise money for murals in our city. They have two fundraisers this week. Tomorrow from 4 to 8, if you drop by Penn Station and get a sub for dinner, a portion of your proceeds, there's a flyer right there, a portion of the proceeds will go specifically towards murals in the city. So please drop by and get dinner from Penn Station tomorrow from 4 to 8. Also on Friday, Clark's Fabrication is running a pop-up makers exhibition. This is free to the public, but we will be collecting donations to the Arts and Culture Board. The businesses there are, I think, putting on a really great show. Love for you to come out. We're also selling Arts Board t-shirts, which if you don't have one, I'd recommend picking them up. They're very stylish. I have 4 in my house. Definitely pick those up. And if you can't make it to either of those, so tomorrow or Friday, if you can't make it to either of those and you support murals coming up in our city, please feel free to donate without buying a sub, without going to the Makers exhibition. The Arts Board has a PayPal set up. You can donate by writing a check to the City of Madison Heights, and in the memo line put Arts Board murals. Any of those things will help us to get more art in our city, and it also supports the hard-working Arts and Culture Board that is there to drive those efforts in the city. So hope to see you tomorrow and Friday, and if not, I hope you'd be so kind as to open up the checkbook a little bit so that we can get more art throughout our city. That's it, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Gettings?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank everyone for coming out. Everyone has strong feelings on what we discussed tonight, but I think that's the great thing about the city and being a councilman is that we agree to disagree. Sometimes it goes the way you would like, sometimes it doesn't, but that's government, that's us being a democratic society, and that means a lot to a lot of us. And that's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Assistant City Attorney, Mr. Gachowski.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing.
Thank you. City Manager, Mrs. Marsh.
I don't have anything to add.
Thank you. City Clerk, Ms. Prince.
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Grafstein.
No, I have nothing to add tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Scott.
Mr. Mayor, I think I've given my opinion and I've shared enough, but I would like to thank the council for considering this motion against the marijuana. But I humbly apologize to those that don't want it in our city, especially to our police chief, our fire chief, and especially the youth that are going to be affected. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Soltis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say one thing. I'm honored to serve on this council with Councilwoman Scott. She's sat with me for 5 years or more, 5+, and she's very passionate about issues that affect children and seniors, and I've always appreciated her insight. I consider her a mentor, and I'm very proud to sit next to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Soltis. Yeah, I agree with many of your remarks, Mr. Gettings. I think you hit the nail on the head. And the majority rules form a government. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but we continue to work together in a professional spirit.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks for all those who participated. I apologize for my jet lag. I just got off a 13-hour flight, with a 4-hour flight right before that one. But I'm so glad to be back in my home, Madison Heights. So there's no further business before the City Council, and this meeting is adjourned. Good evening.